And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And let me just quickly introduce people here. We've got Administrator Hitt to my far left, then we've got Commissioner Huxley, then Commissioner Boyce over here, County Council Huddle, and John Jesuit, our Administrative Assistant. So, let's talk about the amendments to the agenda. It looks like some additional items added to the agenda was meeting folder in X Drive for the BOC awards is one. And then this is for Rich Christensen, the roadmaster. And administrative actions and appointments. Building lease, 517 Railroad. So, do we have a motion to accept those two things?
May I just, if I may, Madam Chair? We have assault on police officers all over the country, and 4 were just shot yesterday. And if we could just offer a few moments of silence for their well-being and protection of all of our law enforcement people.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Council Huddle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have at item 14, executive session. And I would like to, if you could, add to that an item which is under ORS 192.6602D, which is to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations.
Is that C or B or C, did you say?
192.6602D as in David, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. We've basically received requests from 2 unions to open negotiations, and so we need to
Hear that?
talk about that a little bit. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Are there any other amendments to the agenda, whether it's the consent calendar or anything else?
Yeah, I just don't want to accept surveyor's letter of resignation.
Well, unfortunately.
Keep losing better and better people. So we can leave that in consent calendar. But I'm hoping we can approach him and find out what his issues are and perhaps persuade him to stay. He's a heck of a guy.
Okay, did you have any agenda amendments, Commissioner Huxley?
No, I'll have some comments when we second when the motion's second.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved, Madam Chair.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes. What were these 2 again? Would you be a little more clear? Because I saw a document this morning that I don't think anyone else has seen.
Okay, it looks
These
like,
were added. When were they added?
do you have some information on that, Administrator Hitt?
Trying to remember. John, do you remember the 2 additions? The one, just a 5-year award service recognition, and then we had the other one was the lease. And I know
The lease was added 11:39 on Friday, the 12th. And the 5-year service award was added yesterday morning. Maybe it was 1 p.m.
Okay, so my question, I guess, is for Administrator Hitt. Did you approve adding the
Yes.
lease? And
Yes, I
we
did.
How come?
In the case of the award, it was I figure it was just kind of a routine recognition that wouldn't require, it doesn't require any action on your part.
No, my question wasn't the award. My question was the lease.
The lease, a reason I approved that moving ahead is because the lease, people are very anxious to get into the building. They're already in the process of wanting to move forward with that. I've already moved some office equipment into the building, so I figured it was important to proceed more quickly rather than wait until your next.
So is this a
General meeting.
renewal of an existing lease? Or is this a new lease?
It's a new lease because it's a new building, or it's the railroad building in Brookings, which we recently reacquired ownership of, and we finally worked through, or they had proposed a lease, and we had several iterations of the lease going back and forth between us and themselves. And then they were very anxious then and notified me late last week that they wanted to proceed with the lease as quickly as possible.
And did that go out in an email? No, this is the first I know when I see it this morning on an amended agenda.
I thought that it had gone out in an email. That was certainly my intention for you guys to get it via email, and I apologize if that didn't happen. That was
And
clearly
I
a
don't
mistake.
support, where are we going to go from here on add-on stuff if we do things like this? I would like to, if it was a lease, and with the county, I would like to have had the time to review it before walking in and say, okay, here it is. The individual was in a hurry, we need to put it on. I don't think that's a good reason, and certainly if we compound that with the fact that it doesn't appear to have been sent out, and I still haven't read it, so I would not, for that reason,
Support having a
support
lease
that.
on there?
We have to draw a line somewhere.
Okay,
No
so I have a
problem with the-
question.
No problem with the 5-year, but
If we were to postpone that till the next meeting, which I think is January 31st,
Yes, that's correct.
how would that affect the leasee?
I'm not sure of that. I don't know if any representative of ORCCA is here, but I don't know.
But Madam Chair, it would give us the opportunity to review the lease.
Right, right. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's okay. Yes, Commissioner Boyce.
You first.
Oh, thanks, Commissioner. So the lease that's presented here is, I'll call it our standard form lease. It's the lease that we use for renting the space to Oric, David Brock Smith in this building. It's the lease we've used to rent other space around the county, and we changed the parties for the most part, and then identified the spaces that they'll be having in the building. And the plan for the railroad building, was to lease it out, not just to veterans, but to other tenants, and I think Orca was one of the tenants. So the staff work has been done on this, and I understand the board still nevertheless needs to be comfortable with it to approve it, but the language of this lease is essentially something that you've seen before. We're just changing the parties and the location and the indication of the spaces being leased.
So what is your recommendation, Council Huddle?
Well, my recommendation, I don't see a reason to continue, but only because I've seen this lease and I looked at it before it got submitted to the agenda. So personally, I don't see a reason to continue, but if that explanation of this lease being essentially the same lease as the board has seen, just in another form with different tenants in there, it's up to the board to approve this.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you. Straight up or down vote today. We've had plenty of time already spent on this in the past. It's time to I don't want to lose another 2 weeks. Let's take care of business, get it done today.
Commissioner Huxley?
Council, you mentioned Representative Smith's lease, which was an extraordinarily low lease. Is this not the numbers that were determined later by SCDC as fair and reasonable to recoup costs? Is you said it's basically the same? Is the rates the same also?
Well, let me take a look. This is going to be $400 per month, and it's for roughly 408 square feet.
Sounds about $1 a
So
square
it's not
foot.
even close to what the other lease was. So it's not the same when we talking about where, I'm just not comfortable.
Well, that's
Without
probably the
reviewing it.
material term that's different,
Correct.
Commissioner, but regardless, what we're here for right now is just to decide whether you're going to
No,
have this on the
correct.
agenda to discuss, not to vote up or down on approving this lease. So the issue before the board right now is, do you want to talk about this further today or not? Do you want to put it on the agenda today or not? We're not here to decide the merits of the lease, at least not right now.
Correct.
Okay,
And I motion to defer this until the next general meeting, in which time the commissioners can have.
I think there was a motion and a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
To
That's right,
approve
for
the agenda
discussion.
amendments. I suppose you could be making a subsidiary motion to continue this item.
I
Okay.
would withdraw that
Right.
because there was, what was, could we repeat what the motion was, please?
To approve the amended agenda, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
okay. Call for the question.
No.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moving on. Let's do the award, 5-year service award for Don Hannon, Rich Christensen.
I didn't know. Must have been talking about two different awards there.
Let
do
me,
them both.
if I may, first.
Is this a different one?
Well, we have two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going in order of
We have a road
when they.
department and a sheriff's office.
Yes.
Okay, and we've got that one too. We'll do
Ye-
that next. How's
Okay.
that?
Let me, if I may, Madam Chair, just introduce Rich Christensen. I think probably most of you have already met him, but maybe not all members of the public have. Our new roadmaster. Rich comes from us with, and I'll let him spend just a couple minutes giving you a little bit more of his background, but with extensive experience from the city of Brookings and elsewhere. And so he will be running that department, that important agency for the foreseeable future. And then besides giving a little bit of his background, then he has a presentation as well. Rich, it's
Okay,
yours.
Rich.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. My name is Richard Christensen. A brief rundown of my past. I grew up in Sunnyvale, California, and I started my career back in 1985 with the City of Sunnyvale Road Department. And I worked the last 12 years approximately with City of Brookings as a public works supervisor and in charge of all the right-of-way, streets, water, sewer, and storm programs. And I'm excited about my new position here with the County Road Department and look forward to all the challenges that are ahead of me. And
No challenges here.
and so I wanted to introduce Don Hannon here. Don Hannon started working for us 5 years ago as a flagger, and he's worked his way up to a road crew foreman. And he brings to us 34 years of experience working for Pacific Power, and where he was in charge of 58 teams of right-of-way maintenance staff. And so he came here, he was underutilized, and he showed his experience. And 2 years ago, he was made road department foreman. And in those 2 years, we've seen through his practices of herbicide maintenance, spraying the right-of-way, and the way we do maintenance, a 38% increase in production these last 2 years. And so we really appreciate Don's achievements here and look forward to achieving more goals in maintenance and road maintenance.
Good.
So,
Congratulations.
thank you, Don. Thank you.
Okay, next is the office building lease at 517 Railroad Avenue in Brookings. Oh,
We're
let's
gonna
do the other award
service
first.
award. Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, Sheriff. He's going to
I was a little
present an
confused
award
when-
to Jeremy Dunmeyer.
I was a little confused when they said we didn't have it in on time. I go, yeah, we had ours in time then.
Oh, no. This is
Yeah, that
red
wasn't
they
you.
printed here,
So
so.
we're here to honor Jeremy Dummeyer for his contributions to the county. He started back 5 years ago. This is a 5 years award. He started with corrections, and he basically was our go-to guy in corrections. He did most of our transports, and all the younger guys, even though if he wasn't training them at the time, he was an FTO, always went to Jeremy and seek advice, and so he did real well on making sure they had the information they needed. So here recently, he was promoted to the emergency management manager of our county, working under the sheriff's office, and he's doing a bang-up job with that. He's getting his feet wet and making lots of contacts and making sure the county has what we need as far as emergency services. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to congratulate Jeremy for his 5 years.
Congratulations.
No speech?
No speech.
And he has a tremendous firefighting background.
He does.
Also, which we're glad to have here.
Okay, and I know the audience doesn't have the same agenda as I do. I have some red printing here that you don't have, I'm sure, so.
Just a comment there, Madam Chair, if I may. The lease should appropriately be under Section 7, Administrative Actions and Appointments, so it would probably be, ideally be a new 7C, which would be the Railroad Street lease,
Okay,
if I may suggest that.
I would agree with that. Okay, public comments. We've got 2 public comments. First one is Carl King, and I saw him step out. So let's move to David Barnes. You have 3 minutes. I've got 2 rules. You've got to be polite and brief. How's that?
Welcome. Welcome.
I can do that.
Great.
Thank you, David Barnes. First, I want to start by, Madam Chair, congratulations on your ascension, if they're due. I know that it's not an easy job, so Commissioner Huxley, thank you for your 2 years of service as the chair of this commission. One thing I'd like to know now, we have Mr. Hitz sitting here. What are the goals of this committee for the year coming? You know, what do we hope to do to better the county during this year? I've noticed a theme over the last year that Commissioner Boyce has ideas that he puts forth. I agree with some, I don't agree with others, but it seems to be the general consensus that both yourself and Commissioner Huxley are no votes to anything that comes up. And you know, I'd like to know what, last year when I asked this question, I was told we want to hire an interim chair, administrator. We have one, so what do you do this year? You know, Curry's in trouble. We need help. We need a lot of work here. And I'd like to know what y'all plan to do to make us a better county this year.
Working on updating, if I may, Madam Chair, working on updating my vision and goals for the county. Some amendments required, but some of the issues still are valid, and hoping we don't lose another year. So I appreciate your question, your direct questions.
Just to let you know, we are in the process of getting a committee together to discuss possible revenue sources for the county. So
Okay.
we are moving forward,
Okay.
believe it or not.
Have we, all right, another thing, since I still have time left, I happen to be a patient of the healthcare system in North County. I was in the hospital last week over here. And one of the things in speaking to people over there and other people, I know that Commissioner Gold, you mentioned last year, I know you started championing bringing healthcare to South County. And up here, I had a doctor's appointment with a primary care physician, an introductory appointment in July. I saw him once, he left. I made another appointment to see another doctor in August. My first appointment available was in January. I got a call 3 days before that doctor was no longer with the healthcare system. There's a dire need for primary care physicians and doctors in the Gold Beach area, and you know I think there's programs out there like the Teach America program where they bring teachers into underserved and underprivileged areas and offer to pay off their student loans for doing it. I'd like to know if the county might be willing to partner with Curry Health Network and see if we can come up with some kind of program like that where we find somebody in medical school somewhere or in their residency who's willing to come to Curry County and give 4 years of their life to us in terms of us paying off most or a substantial portion of their their medical school loans. We seem to have a real hard time attracting people here just with the job offer. I think we need to sweeten the pot a little bit, and that's just, I complain, yeah, but I have a solution to my complaint. I try to. So
Just to let you know, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, that there are offers out there for doctors that go into rural areas to get their student loans paid already. So
we should see if we can get our names put high up on the list of the counties that
and
have some of
I
those
totally
doctors.
understand your frustration. I've gone through the same thing.
Like
So-
I said, I heard you champion it last year, so that's why I'm mentioning it to
And
you
that
now.
is, I have to agree, one of the problems we've got here is the retention of good physicians. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
One more. Mr. Barnes, met with Sam Baugh, Kyle Stevens of Southern Oregon Workers Investment Board, Dave Gilmore, number 2 or 3 person in Curry Health Network, and just on that subject, as you know, the competition for service providers and doctors is pretty intense, not just in our state, but it is a huge issue, and I think getting the 3 of them together will be beneficial, and so I think we're going to make some progress on that and position our county so that we can recruit well.
Thank you.
Now, the advisory, Resource Advisory Committee, just a little less than a year ago, I brought it before the board to see if we could get an advisory committee, failed. Also, again, I think it was in June, failed. So we lost 1 year. Could have been on the ballot this year. Had the committee presumably come up with a plan that could go before the voters and perhaps be accepted. So again, we don't lose another year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, consent calendar.
I think Carl King came back.
Oh, Carl King.
Carl's back, yeah.
I'm sorry. Took off, out of sight, out of mind.
Sorry, I had some personal business with the road department. Carl King, Nasika Beach. I am a member of the Citizens Involvement Committee that works with your planning department. You have heard from the Carolyn that there is a wildfire hazard maps coming out and a proposed change of the county statewide regulations dealing with property in areas that are now within those hazard zones. We have been working with Administrator Hitt and Carolyn with funding provided by the Gold Beach Rotary Foundation to provide a state-of-the-art workshop on these new regulations by live streaming from this room into people's homes, into satellite locations in Port Orford and in Brookings. We were supposed to be meeting at 1 o'clock today to further that plans. And yesterday, I believe it was yesterday or late Monday, we learned that there's new information available on these proposed regulations. And so I just wanted to make an announcement. If anyone's watching who was planning to drive here at 1 o'clock today to meet with us, we're not meeting, but we are moving forward with this and hope to, as I say, when it's timely, we're going to have a state-of-the-art program using this room and private funding to make sure that every resident of the county who may be impacted by these changes has an opportunity to listen to people from the state talk about them, local rural fire chiefs talk about the impact and the like, so that when it comes before you for a hearing on whether or not to adopt it, people will be here who are well informed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are you going to put a note on the door or something so people will know that it's been canceled? Or
We're meeting downstairs. I think Carolyn withdrew the reserve on the Blue Room, and I'll mention it to them when I go to lunch.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, next we've got a presentation by Curry County Child Abuse Intervention Center, Jacqueline Atunes. Yes.
We're jointly, we jumped over 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you guys took care of that. What's the problem? Okay, do we have a
No,
motion
there's
to?
No problem.
Because I got out of sync
I
here.
think we can all agree that it's Carl King's fault.
Yeah, he's a good guy to blame. Yeah.
All
We have
right,
a,
we got
do we have a
a,
motion?
do we have a
You want
motion
us-
to accept
He
the
deserves another
consent-
3 minutes then.
Nope, nope.
Okay, do we have a motion to to accept the consent calendar as written?
I had a question. Did we make any additions to the consent calendar in these
I don't.
additional notes or not?
No.
I don't believe we
Okay,
did.
then I would motion to approve the consent calendar as listed.
Second, Madam Chair.
Any discussion? Okay. Call for the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, now we can move on. Curry County Child Abuse Intervention. Is Jacqueline Atunes here? You are? Okay. John Jesuit. Give it to the techno retard there.
While he's setting that up, I'll pass out brochures.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
It would be, the VOC slide presentation at the top.
Work this with the mouse or with the keyboard?
I can do it with there.
Keyboard. And then.
Yes, you can do it from the podium, yes. At least you're supposed to be able to.
Because you have to stand close to
Yeah, I have to stand, I could, do you want me just to take, whatever you need me to do in order to.
It'll match your outfit.
Okay, I got a pocket, you can put that in.
You gotta put this puppy up close.
Alrighty, technology.
I'm with you, Jackie, all the way.
No
Okay,
hurry
so-
either.
So, I'm sorry, I'm a little flustered. So my name is Jacqueline Antunes. I've been your county's coordinator, interviewer, and director for the Curry Child Abuse Intervention, or Curry Advocacy Center as it's been called. We have moved to the name of Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center, and we have created a nonprofit called the Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center, doing business as Wally's House. In 2014, when I started, our offices were in the basement of the courthouse, which are not conducive to making a non-intimidating and child-friendly environment within which to do our interviews of children who are alleged to have been victims of child abuse and child sexual abuse. And so in a discussion with Jerry Honeycutt, she offered a building at a reduced rate for our center to rent and move into, on the proviso that we would create a nonprofit so that eventually she could donate that building to the nonprofit. Let me see if I can make this work. So we now are located on 8th Street. We have a building that has meeting area, family area, and a nice environment outside. Our mission is to provide prevention of child abuse and neglect for all children while ensuring intervention and advocacy for those who are the suspected victims of child abuse, for their support and healing. The services that we provide are our forensic interviewing in a child-focused setting, victim advocacy. Currently, we are working with the DA's Victim Advocate Program. We refer out right now for our medical and mental health services. We provide case review and case tracking through our multidisciplinary team, and I do prevention education, and then I do community outreach and education. Who do we work with? We work with law enforcement, the district attorney's office, Department of Human Services, Child Welfare. We work with mental health and private counseling services. We work with the Curry Community Health. Our advocacy center is a member of the Oregon Network of Child Abuse Intervention Centers, and we provide services for CASA, which is our court-appointed special advocates. When we have interviewed a child that is now a ward of the court, they are able to come and watch those interviews in our facility to see what was said by that child. So the way that we work is if someone witnesses or suspects child abuse, they report it to law enforcement and DHS, and we then do the forensic interviews for those. If that case is unfounded, it's done. If it is founded, those services are offered by DHS to, if it's a protective environment and the child can be safe in the home, they are left there. If not, then they are put into a foster home, and CASA is appointed by the court. We have a long list of people who must report that are mandatory reporters. They include your physicians, your nurse practitioners, school employees, any licensed child servicing agency, including daycares, alcohol and drug treatment programs for adults, your clergymen and pastors, your family therapists, the list goes on. We address all types of abuse. We are even beginning to do what other centers do and interview children who are witnesses to domestic violence. That was something that was not a priority and is now becoming something that we around the state believe is in a child's best interest, to make sure that their home environment is safe and non-threatening. We have been funded mainly by the Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Fund through the state of Oregon. That fund has kept me and my predecessors in a part-time position. When the district attorney's office took over, initially the child advocacy team was nonprofit, and when the first director, Barbara Eels, retired, it went under our district attorney's office. We've had a total of 4 directors in the last 20 years, so we've done pretty well in keeping the director position staffed and consistent. This funding is allocated to each county's district attorney based on the county's population, number of children 0 to 17 in that population, and then factored into that equation is our crime rate. Because our county's population is so low, our funding is also low, and the services then suffer because we can't fund that position in a full-time manner with those funds. This is the other funding that, as we have moved toward nonprofit, that we are able to acquire. The one-time VOCA grant is through the county right now, but the non-competitive VOCA grant, which is Victims of Crime Act money, was applied for by the nonprofit and is currently in modifications. The Coquille Tribe has supported us. All Care, Curry County, or the Curry Health Foundation, grants from other foundations, which is Oregon Community Foundation and Collins Fund. Those are both foundations that are now supporting our nonprofit. The Justice Reinvestment Grant was applied to and awarded to the nonprofit. Our nonprofit has received private donations in the manner of anywhere from snacks for the kids to funding, which helps us with non-restricted funds that we need greatly. And then we are now starting to work on insurance billing for the forensic interviews that we do, and we will, because we do not bill a parent for anything that the child has done in our center. And as we add medical services to our building, which that's coming in the next year, we will be able to bill for those services as well. I do education on Carly's Law. Carly Sheehan was a little girl from I believe at the Salem-Kaiser area, and she was killed in 2005. Oregon is the only state that has a law that mandates that law enforcement and DHS, when suspicious injuries are reported to them, they must photograph those injuries within 48 hours, and that child must receive a medical assessment, and the county's designated medical professional must review those documents and pictures if they are not the one performing that service. A doctor, let's see, an MD, a DO, a physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner are all qualified to make those exams. Aaron's Law is another law that has been adopted in Oregon that I have done some education and resource training on for our schools, and have been helping them find the curriculum that addresses the mandate that all of our schools now provide sex abuse prevention curriculum from grades K through 12 that's age appropriate and helps children understand that what's going on in their home or out in the community is not okay, and they can talk to the right person about that and get help. This is Wally's house. Again, we are located on 8th Street. This is one of our meeting areas. I have a real problem with stacking on my desk, but that's my desk. This is part of the observation room where law enforcement and DHS and our district attorney watch the interviews. This is our interview room. This is our other entrance where families can come in and move directly into a comfortable sitting area and play area for the children. Everything that you're seeing has been donated by community members or was furnishings that was in our old offices in the basement of the courthouse. This is part of our medical room. Oh, for some reason that moved. That's our exam table and the cortex flow. Again, the exam room. This is our boardroom. A community member donated funding to purchase the chairs, and our pediatrician and his wife commissioned the tables to be made out of myrtle wood for our center so that we can have a
Nice
decent
table.
meeting area. We have 2 bathrooms. This one is specific for the families. It has a changing table so mommy and daddy can change a younger sibling. The parking area out front was, funds were used from the Coquille tribe and from a private donation to make sure that we had adequate parking. Initially it was a sidewalk and grass yard, and now we can fit 3 cars and we have also a handicapped area, so 4 cars can park there. Our prevention programs. Initially I was going in and showing the video, I'm the boss of my body. We have a volunteer facilitator for Darkness to Light that trains the adults in the community on how to keep our kids safe. And then the Safer Smarter Kids curriculum is a curriculum out of Florida where they address even pre-K through grade 12. And this is to report child abuse. I am able to also outline further for you what different funding sources has paid for us if you want, or we can move on with any other questions that you have.
I just have one question. You said that there were physicians involved. Do those physicians volunteer their time?
Our county's pediatrician, Dr. Harris, is our volunteer medical director at Wally's house. We
Great.
are working on our contract with him, and he is our county's designated medical professional. Our children that have to report to the ER for our Carly's Law cases, I've done a presentation for the ER staff for that, and we have, I think one of my favorite doctors that works ER on rotation is Dr. Moon. He's worked in other counties doing Carly's Law cases, and he does a bang-up job getting what we need and then getting it to Dr. Harris to review.
Good.
So
Any
we
other
are-
questions? Commissioner Boyce?
Well, needless to say, you have a tough job, and I really appreciate you coming today. What you have accomplished at Wally's house, you and your board, is just be encouraged. It's just very much appreciated, very much a necessity. And I encourage the board members, if you have a chance to go see that. Pictures are great, but it is just tremendous.
I'm really
So-
disappointed that Cortex Flow didn't show up. I call her Corey, and she's pretty cool. She's a big touch screen and a regular camera with a filtered light that appropriately shows the skin tones and injuries accurately, and it photographs and saves those photographs and then keeps them safe. It's backed up twice in a hard drive and is not on our internet, so it's not hackable.
Good.
The nonprofit has been making great strides. We have, as I said, we have grants now from Collins Foundation, the VOCA non-competitive grant, and the Oregon Community Foundation, and we have listed jobs or openings for the job of advocate and a part-time administrative assistant to work for the nonprofit. So we will be able to track our cases and respond to our cases and provide advocacy in-house that is greatly needed.
Good. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I had a question.
Yes.
Hi, Jackie. Could you back the slide up? And I don't know if Charles is listening, if he could put that slide on to the report.
Oh.
There you go. Thank you. And then when you were talking about this in the beginning of your presentation as well, I had the question is, are you all someone people can report child abuse to? So, okay, you're not.
We take referrals from law enforcement and DHS. I have had calls of people reporting abuse, and if they leave their number, I have called them back and given them the number to the appropriate resource.
And then the other thing is, I don't know if we have your PowerPoint in our packet.
No.
The answer is no.
We do not.
Will we get a copy of that?
Would you like a copy? I can give.
I think so.
Okay.
So, but that's all I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay.
And I love your desk, messy. That's fine.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much, Jackie. Okay, administrative actions. Oh, I'm sorry, Del Norte County Economic Development. She made it. All right. Good.
Nothing like running from the courthouse over here.
Van Haynes.
How is everybody this morning?
Good, it's not raining.
So far.
Do we have the presentation up here? Did we?
Hers is in the
It was in the packet, yeah.
Yeah, it was in the packet.
Okay, if you guys, I just want to briefly touch
Page
on.
18,
Yep.
if that helps, Joan.
Are we able to put her PowerPoint up there? Or,
No, she
If
said
not, I
it's-
can just talk
Okay,
yours off.
hold on a
That's okay.
minute.
No, we get it.
This is Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, 18, Charles.
That's 18, it needs to go,
Here
there we
go.
go.
Yeah.
There you
and then how can we control that? Oh, she's got the ability?
Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Roxanne Haynes, and I am the Executive Director for the Del Norte Economic Development Corporation. The name is very deceiving, and we haven't done a lot of advertising up here in the past few years, but our charter actually does allow us to service Del Norte, Curry, Jackson, Josephine, and Humboldt counties. I think I'm just going to end up talking because this is not really wanting to work.
We got it.
There we go. So what we do at the DNEDC right now is we do small business loans that have been funded through USDA and EDA. And we fund small businesses that cannot get funded through traditional funding. They don't have 2 years of the business being open. They don't have good credit. We are able to look at the entire profile of a small business owner and be able to fund more risky businesses in order to get them open. And we do have a requirement that every one of those businesses establish at least one new job or retain one new job for every $5,000 that we lend out. But we are expanding, and we are trying to get more involved in the community development. So currently, like I said, we're offering small business loans, and this allows us to keep our jobs in our communities. And we do provide the startup funding and business funding, retentions, and expansions. But as we all know, economic development is a lot more than just giving small business loans. I wanted just to touch really quickly on 7 best practices that we have put into effect down in Del Norte County, and we'd like to start seeing more in Curry County. Humboldt, Jackson, and Josephine are strongly supported with their own EDCs regionally, so most of our attention now is going to be focused in Curry and Del Norte counties. So what we're doing is we're providing network opportunities amongst leaders, business leaders. We want to develop the business leaders within our communities, and we want to help these existing businesses stay here and stay open, and also be able to open new ones. There's a company up in Eugene, it's called the Rural Develop Initiatives, RDI, and they offer a lot of education and a lot of points on economic development and things that we can do locally in order to keep building our economy. We have already started using some of these in Del Norte County. They can be used in whatever order, so there's not like you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do however you want and whatever works best for your community. So the best practice number 1 is creating networks that are going to support your entrepreneurs and micro business development. Our area will be best served if we're diversified. Right now we've got our big employers, which are Fred Meyer and the prison and the hospitals. But what happens if one of those goes away? What happens to our community? We will lose a lot. So we really need to diversify and make sure that we are offering opportunities to have several different types of businesses. So if one of the larger businesses does go away, like Ray's did, that we are able to move those employees into other positions, and we don't lose those tax dollars. So, as I said, the recent closings of Ray's and Payless was down in Crescent City, but Shop Smart up here, that caused a lot of economic turmoil for all of those employees because there really wasn't any place for them to go. Best practice number 2 is thinking locally and shopping local businesses first. We've all heard, shop local, small business Saturdays. As a community, we really need to push this and make it commonplace so that we're not giving our money to companies that are based not even in the U.S., not in our area. We want to support our local communities by thinking local. And in order to do that, we also need to make sure that we are encouraging people that have services that we need in our area to be coming to our area in order to be able to do that local business. Examples of this practice include Small Business Sunday, Small Business Weeks. Both of these are being implemented in our county, but again, we don't hear it a lot. It's not, you go to other communities, you see signs everywhere, shop local, support your local business. I think as a community in Curry County, we really need to make that our motto. We want to retain and grow our local businesses. We have a lot of great businesses here that are struggling because of what happened over the summer with the fires and then the fishing season being very poor this year. It's caused a lot of businesses some hardship, and we want to, as a community, make sure that we're utilizing all of the resources available in order to help those businesses remain open and keep their doors open until they can get back up on their feet again. We have examples of this practice. There's the South Coast Development Council, which is here today. Also the SBDC, which is a great organization, and they help young people and people starting out business create business plans, look at financials, and they do this at a nominal fee or sometimes no fee at all. This is something that's taking place down in Crescent City. I don't know how many of you spend any time down there, but we saw it in Port Orford, and I'd really like to see it in Brookings, and that's the downtown revitalization. We want people to drive through our community and go, hey, this looks like a really cool place to stop, so let's stop and spend some of our tourist dollars here. There's ways that you can do it with organization, promotion, designing, economic restructuring. We really want everything to have that charm, because we know what a great community that we're in, but when you drive through and you see empty storefronts and things not kept up, it doesn't really encourage anybody to stop and stay. The Downtown Divas is a nonprofit that formed in Crescent City, and they have been working extensively to revitalize downtown Crescent City, and they've done a lot of great things with first Friday night. They shut down downtown Crescent City, and they have vendors and music, and all of the community comes together. They've cleaned up that front street area really well to encourage the locals to come down and not be afraid because of the crime that was down there. I'd love to see something like this happen up here. Practice number 6, farmers markets and community supported agriculture. We have a great farmers market here. It's been great to see it grow over the last few years. We really want to make sure that we're encouraging, our local people to come and support this and make it a success, rather than, again, giving those dollars to corporate America. We want to keep that money with our growers and our ranchers. So there's some great ideas here. I'm not going to go through them all because we are kind of on a time crunch, but this is some examples of how other communities have gotten their local farmers funded and really supported the ranchers and the farmers in their communities. And number 7, developing visitor amenities. Why do people come to Brookings? They want to come and they want to visit. They want to see the beautiful area. They want to ride their bikes. One thing I've been hearing a lot is the bikers that come through. They are looking for housing, overnight, cheap, hostels, yurts, things like that really encourage them to ride their bikes through here. And they $15 a night, they can stay in a hostel with other bikers and wander around and spend their money here in town. So if they don't stop here, they're going to stop somewhere else, and then leave that money there. So that would be something that we might want to look at. Here's some examples of these festivals and organizations bringing tourist dollars in. You see here at Arcado, they have the Oyster Festival. We have the Slam and Salmon here, but again, when there's no salmon, there's no festival.
Slammin'.
So I think we have so many great things in Curry County that we should be able to find some sort of a festival to celebrate, all of the great things here. This is Mount Shasta. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Mount Shasta. It's my hometown, so I'm a little prejudiced. But every year they do this huge tree lighting ceremony in downtown Mount Shasta, and it brings in a lot of tourist dollars. Surrounding communities come in, people down as far as Reading, Red Bluff, they all come in for this, and it brings in a lot of money for the town. This is a bigger one. This is the Downtown Farmers Market in Minneapolis. Several years ago, they were revitalizing the downtown area, and they found one of the things they did is they started with 2 city blocks that they shut down and brought in all vendors, and they have this huge farmers market now, and it's up to 6 city blocks now that they have shut down because they have that many vendors and farmers and great things coming in, and all of that money goes directly to the ranchers and the farmers and keeps that money local. More examples. Have any of you ever been to Manitou Springs, Colorado? This is an offshoot of Colorado Springs, and it used to be a rundown, crime-ridden area. But they had all these great buildings, these old Victorian buildings. So they got grants and they were able to find funding to revitalize, and this is now one of the biggest tourist areas of Colorado Springs. Santa Fe, same thing downtown. They've made it the destination. So people actually get off of I-5 just to go to downtown Santa Fe. So that's examples. Let's see. The influence the 7 practices have on our organization is it continues making it successful, working with communities and regions. We as an organization have taken these practices on as a business model, and we are here to help people maintain their businesses as well as open the new businesses. I have clients come in every day with great business ideas. But one of the complaints I'm hearing is it's so hard to open a business in this area. There's so many things you have to jump through. There's no central location to go. If somebody wants to come in and open a business, there's no place they can go, I need A, B, C, and D. They get passed. Go see this person, go see that person. So we really want to look at trying to find some sort of a way that we can attract these people. If they come in to our organization, say, hey, I've got this great idea, I can hand them something and go, hey, here's what you need to get started in Curry County. Let's, get on this. So they weren't sure where to begin or get their ideas off the ground. So we as an organization are really working to bring those businesses in. We are a resource. We're not just for lending funds. As a matter of fact, we've actually lent out all of our funds right now. But we are in the business of connecting people to partners. So part of my job is to be able to direct people if they come in with something to granting funders in order to get businesses going. I look for those grants for them and help them write them in order to bring in community development. And again, the SBDC is a great resource. We need to make sure that stays funded. Del Norte has lost their funding. So we're actually working to try to find some funding to get that back in Del Norte. Fortunately, Curry County's is doing great through the college. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. In the next few years, our business plan is really to be working with the community leaders here in Curry County and really drive an economic focus. And I'm hoping I can work closely with all of you in ways to continue to help build up our area.
Good, thank you. Unfortunately, we've got 2 minutes till the public hearing, so if someone's got a question,
Ask
be
it quick. Okay, great.
Nope.
Didn't want to answer it anyway. Oh, sorry.
Just
Administrator Gill.
one quick question.
Sure.
Your loan fund, and I realize you said you don't have any currently available. Did you do micro enterprise lending or SBA or a little bit of both?
We are actually getting certified now to be an SBA lender. What happened is in 1976, we got $1.5 million grant from the EDA, and we have about another $1 million that we have received from the USDA, and they're called revolving loan funds.
Okay.
So we lend them out, and then as they're paid back, we relend them to new businesses. And currently, they are all lent out. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you so much for coming, and
No problem.
it's been very informative.
great.
Okay, we're going to move on to the public hearing. It starts at 11 a.m., so we've got like almost 30 seconds before we start. So, Carolyn, you're going to be in charge of that, so if you want to get in place, ready to go.
Hello. I'm going to go ahead. That's all right.
Okay, please do.
We're going to hold you to the second.
Okay. You guys are doing very well. Hello again, Carolyn Johnson, Community Development Director. I'm back here to see you again about the enterprise zone. You last talked about this in September. And just for the benefit of the audience and an update, I'll give you a brief overview out of my staff report. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, so unless this is distracting, I'll just...
Can we kind of get that off the screen?
Sure,
So,
no problem.
yeah. We want everybody to focus on you,
Oh,
Carolyn.
oh, okay.
We'll put the sign close above your top.
Such power.
Okay, are we all set?
We are. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. I'm here today with Tracy Loomis from CCD. CCD is the federally recognized and funded economic development district for enterprise zones in Douglas, Coos, and Curry counties. Back in December of 2016, the board had reviewed a proposed enterprise zone concept and a map identifying the zone locations. We were directed to revise the map and come back. We came back to you in September with a new map and went through some discussion on that. And the direction was provided again to revise the map to include the Pacific Gales Golf Course area. If the board approves this enterprise zone, it will include properties that are outlined on the map that you see up there. It's a little hard to distinguish it because it is such a big area, but essentially we'd be looking at areas in heavy commercial, public facility, industrial, rural residential, rural resort commercial, rural industrial, and exclusive farm use land was added last time to accommodate the Pacific Gales Golf Course. There are lots of different things that could happen in these areas that are outlined in your zoning code and your staff report. And unless there's questions on that, I'm gonna just refer you to the report. Tracy is here from CCD, and I'd like her to be able to say a few words about what the enterprise zone offers. The recommendation here today is for the board to move ahead and adopt the zone as we've presented. So I'll be available for questions when Tracy's done if you'd like to ask.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Sure. I'll set you up. It needs to go like this, as close to your...
Good morning. The enterprise zone, as we've talked before, it's, I use the term a lot, it's like one more overlay for the communities, the county to maybe represent, get out there and maybe attract a new business. Maybe a lot of the focus these days are taking our businesses that we have now and grow them. So this is one alternative, one more thing that we can offer a business to stay in the area, grow in the area, or come new to the area. This is a state program. It's all in statute. It's big. It's complicated, but basically, when you're in an enterprise zone, you get a basic 3-year. That's abatement from any new taxation within that area. Once that 3-year period is up, it goes on the tax rolls. Taxes are collected as they normally would be. The state has stringent rules on employment. You don't just get these, you must employ either new or more employees. There are different, you can have a 4th and 5th year. This is higher wages, higher paying wages before you can get that 4th and 5th year. Some companies in Oregon, it's rare, but they can get up to 15 years. That's a huge investment, like $25 million investment minimum. A lot of employees and a lot of high pay. That's out there. Doesn't happen a lot, but it has. So that's kind of the basic of what it is, what it can be used for. As Carolyn said, CCD is the enterprise zone managers for all enterprise zones in Curry and Douglas counties. This is a new zone. Curry County has one existing zone right now in the Gold Beach area.
How successful has that been in the Gold Beach area?
There has been little to no usage. I've been with CCD for 10 years. I think there was one business that, I think it was an existing business. So it's been slow. The downturn several years ago, it was, there just wasn't movement in our counties especially. Right now, we see a uptick in interest in virtually every enterprise zone. We've been hopping with requests and meetings and, some good discussion, whether they get to the point of moving there or expanding or not. But, it helps. It's helped some of these areas.
Okay, when you first started talking, you talked about no new tax for 3 years. Is that
correct?
So they will be paying the existing taxes, but no extra on top of that.
Right. So, anything that's on the tax rolls, which is of course all the land, an existing building perhaps, that remains on the tax rolls.
Okay.
The way it's set up is any new construction, any improvements, the personal, the machinery and equipment that qualify, not a forklift that can be driven off to another location, but things that are basically bolted down. And this is it's more of a manufacturing type thing. It's not your retail fronts. And an example I like to use is we have a current, there's a brewery in the back, retail up front. That in the back is still part of something that's eligible. The front might not be. So, it's just little incentives maybe sometimes for our little businesses to grow.
But you are seeing more interest right now.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, just comments, if I may, Madam Chair. In my experience, at least any larger scale businesses, and by larger scale, I'm just going to arbitrarily say 20, 25 employees or more, virtually always ask for or seek enterprise zone. So it's kind of known out there. If you've spent any time in Oregon or are looking at Oregon, even if you're relocating from another state. So I think it's definitely something any economic developer, a tool they want in their toolbox. Absolutely.
And Art Fish, who is the state, our contact, and he's been there for way longer than I've been with CCD, and he knows it frontwards and backwards. But basically in all 50 states, virtually in most of the countries, there is some sort of incentive that the states want, or the small countries want, or the big countries want, that will lure, so you can, and rural, you get a little bit more than the urban. The urban has things that rural does not. So you're kind of getting on the same playing field. It's a way.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Was Carolyn Johnson going to come back up for questions, or
Yeah, she'll be up here
when
too.
she comes back.
Okay. Thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome. There you go.
Certainly.
Okay,
When we first discussed this, and I think you referenced back in September or sometime last year, you were asked to bring back the specific listing of the parcels with the tax lots, townships, ranges, which you did.
Yes.
And that's most of these pages. Also because, the map really didn't give you an idea at all for any specificity. Even, when you blow it up that much, you were going to bring back, I thought, some additional, more detailed maps. Or not seeing it, are these available on the GIS system where somebody can go and actually see what the parcels are? Because you can't.
You
There.
can,
You can't even make out the colors.
okay, you can utilize the numbers that are identified in the first attachment to this resolution and plug it into GIS and
Okay,
see where they're
okay, and then go
located.
see what's there.
And I also brought some smaller copies, if anybody wants to look at them, of the maps. They're still a little, they're difficult to discern. The other option we had was to try to break the county up by section, but we ended up not going that route, so.
Administrator Hitt?
To follow up on Commissioner Huxley's question, would you be able on the big map to show us about where the Pacific Gales, because that is part of this, is that correct? The Pacific Gales property?
Yes, it is.
Could you show, are you able to?
If you see that little, it's a little purple arrow up there to the west of where you see sixes. I believe that's it.
Okay.
And I think someone from Pacific Gales is here as well to speak. It might be able to fill you in on their plans and their interest in this as well.
Okay.
I'm looking for room for Amazon. They're taking bids from all over the country. Isn't it 10 billion?
Yes,
for
if
the
I
new
may, though,
plant?
Commissioner, they set out a parameters of what they're looking for.
Everybody's being secretive, not to play their
No, but
hand on
so
what they're
many-
willing to offer.
Yeah, so many range of a major international airport, so many
Oh,
percent
we
of
just
people
lost,
with
okay.
advanced college degrees. I looked through that just out of curiosity as a former economic
amazing.
developer, and I don't think we met any of them. Pretty sure we didn't.
So my best friend's not going to be close?
Probably not.
Oh, crap.
Be great if we did. I would be all over it, but.
Could I correct a statement I made a moment ago? The Pacific Gales location would be just north of Port Orford. It's
So
in
is
blue.
that kind of in the blue there?
It's in
or
blue, yes. Sorry about that.
Magenta, whatever color that is.
Okay,
See
any
here,
other comments
but
or
you can't-
questions?
You can't really make anything
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And I've looked at it.
Do we have, I guess I would go to public comment now. Is there anybody that has public comment? And state your name when you get up here, Mr. King.
Carl King, Nasika Beach. I spent several decades of my life doing development work and continue to follow development. These zones do more than attract jobs, they attract support for community activities. Probably, I've watched the Amazon because I know several cities that are competing for it. And I watched, for example, General Electric move its headquarters into Massachusetts. And it has already, within 2 years, donated to the community support as much as they got in tax breaks to come. Recently, the large pharmaceutical companies are making, in Greater Boston, are pledging millions of dollars to improve the science education in the public schools because they need educated employees. And I think if we do this, not every company that takes advantage of it will do it, but I think you'll see that the companies that you can attract will invest in our communities and in our education system. And I certainly think this is something that Curry County should do. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Mr. Ball?
Sam Boss, South Coast Development Council. I will tell you the enterprise zones are a tool we use a lot, especially up in Coos County, Coastal Lane, and Coastal Douglas counties. That is the #1 question most organizations ask about is what is either a urban renewal district or what is the enterprise zone that is associated with this. And it definitely attracts a lot of organizations. It's very similar to saying, hey, Court, I'm going to write you a $25 million check, but you have to wait 3 years to cash it. Would you be accepting something like that? And that's very similar to that
Well, you're showing a lot of promise there.
I've shown a lot of promise. But that is ultimately what a lot of these organizations are doing. Is they're like, we need just enough time to get our feet under ourselves to become profitable, and then we're going to be paying back our taxes at that higher rate. So it is a very, very useful tool. Just
Thank you. We had one other public comment. If you could introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Thanks. My name's Jim Haley. I'm with the Pacific Gales Golf Course, and thought
Okay.
I'd say thank you for including us and trying to get us into this. I know it was spur of the moment when it came up, and noticed it on the agenda and contacted Carolyn, and I really appreciate getting into this. The project's probably a $25 to $30 million development. So the amount of money spent in and around Port Orford from a $25 to $30 million investment is going to be a huge shot in the arm. And then moving forward, we'll probably have 25 to 50 jobs that we're going to fill there. So I think it's going to be helpful to us, and I appreciate you guys getting us into this conversation. So thank you.
Just one question. How are you going to be comparing to, say, Bandon Dunes?
So a little history on the subject. I was fortunate enough to build the first golf course at Bandon, and it was a real feather in my cap. I started a construction company right after it, and it was great. And you know, usually you only get to touch those kind of properties once in your life, and this is better than Bandon Dunes, actually. And I think we're going to be mentioned in the same breath. And really, we're taking the project is really going back to Bandon Dunes' origins, where it was a small, intimate resort and not the big, huge behemoth that it is now. Huge amount of respect for Mike Kaiser and Kemper Sports and what they've done there. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. So.
One last question. Pacific Gales, do the gales refer to the high winds that?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay.
We're embracing the ocean and the wind. It's part of the game of golf. The Scots say "nay wind, nay golf." So no wind, no golf.
Okay.
So we're happy to have the wind.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay.
Oh, yeah, you have a hand up. Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Hi again. I just want to say from the Economic Development Corporation, this would be great. This would be a great marketing tool in order to bring new businesses in. And like we said, you bring one business in, it creates jobs, and that spreads out. So this zoning would be just really a good thing for our area.
So do we have a motion to, we've got another public comment?
Do we need to close public
You do,
comment?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we will close this public hearing at this time.
Well, public comment.
Public comment part of the hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm new at this.
Doing great.
Do we have a motion to approve the enterprise zone application to Business Oregon?
Was there not attached?
We're not voting on
a
today, are we?
We're not voting today?
Yeah, it's a resolution, Madam Chair. A
Okay.
resolution, Curry County Board of Commissioners authorizes submittal of the enterprise zone application.
Okay, so do we have a motion to that effect? Approving the submittal of the resolution?
Yeah, I would
That makes sense.
propose or motion to approve the documentation submitted and the recommendation of the Curry Community Development Director.
Okay.
Second, Madam Chair.
Any discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye. See, we do agree sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go backwards just a bit. We need to go to, no, I guess we're not going backwards. We are at 7B, Appointment of Citizens Revenue Task Force Members. John Hitt?
I have a question. Jackie's still there. Jackie, do we need to, for you have a separation? Yeah. So I'm sorry, Madam Chair, 7A.
Oh, 7A,
She
I'm
had-
sorry.
She had two places on the agenda, so a little bit confusing. But
Oh, okay.
Well,
No
and-
wonder I'm confused.
Yeah.
And Ms. Kallstrom also presented the CAMI budget earlier that you approved
Right.
under the consent
Yeah,
calendar.
it's actually three.
So, it's my day. So yes, I am requesting that, that the Board of Commissioners direct Council Huddle to assist our nonprofit in working toward our peeling away from the county and my position from the district attorney's office in the next year and a half to become a complete standalone nonprofit. We would then be able to apply for those CAMI funds as a nonprofit, and the county and during the next year and a half also would spend down the VOCA one-time grant, and then we would be completely able to apply when the CAMI grant opens in 2019 for the 2019-21 biennium as the nonprofit. So that's what that request is for.
Okay, and so this is really going to be to your advantage to go into a nonprofit organization. You'll be able to secure more funding for your organization as a result.
It will take me away from standing across a canyon with one foot in the county as a county employee and one foot in the nonprofit as a nonprofit employee, and the nonprofit would then be completely responsible for everything dealing with the Curry Child Abuse Intervention Center and Wally's House.
And nobody doesn't like kids, so.
You know, we have gotten overwhelming support from the community, and every time I've come before this board, they have been supportive of our budget and allowing the district attorney to include some of his funds in my salary in order to give me more time as the director and provide better services with that allocated time.
Okay, so do we have a motion to direct county council to help Wally's House in the separation?
So I would motion to do, again, the recommendation of Jackie in this memo, in the cover memo, to do so.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye.
2 in a row.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
Jackie. Okay, we're moving on to 7B, appointment of Citizens Revenue Task Force members. Administrator Hitt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. We've had this on our agenda several times now, discussing the opportunity or the options for the county to enhance its revenue. This originally came out of a recommendation of the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee last year. We placed in a press release in the paper some weeks ago seeking volunteers for such a task force or committee. And you have as part of your agenda packet application from Roxanne Haynes, who happens to be here with us. You also have one from Kitty Bunton, who unfortunately we just found out this morning asked to have that revoked. She didn't feel like she could go forward with that. And then we also have an application from, remind me, John, what was the other one we got? Oh, yes, Catherine Wiley, thank you. And that came yesterday, I believe? Monday, okay.
So is there a deadline for submitting applications? Because I gave a couple of other people applications to send in.
Well, the only deadline is, when you want to proceed with appointing and authorizing the committee to go ahead.
I think a committee of 2 would be kind of
Yes, it would
small.
not be
We need a minimum of 5.
I would suggest a minimum of 5. So I guess the bottom line question for your consideration right at the moment is, do you have, between the 3 of you, 3 additional potential appointees? And if not, we can just simply defer this to a future meeting.
I'm kind of the opinion that I'd like to defer it because I'd like to get together with, right now we've kind of got citizens, we've got someone from economic development, which is good. If we could get possibly a restaurant owner, I was thinking maybe the restaurant owner at Spinners would be good. We've got Joe Q Public already. Possibly a business owner too, retail. Because I think we're kind of doing a thrust on some sort of a tax, sales tax.
Potential.
So those folks need to be involved, I think. Okay, Commissioner Huxley.
Well, you know, clearly it was disappointing, you know, when we talked earlier, a month or less ago, that doing something like this over the Christmas, New Year's was not the preferred time, but it's still disappointing that we would have to go out to try and recruit. I mean, that's not, clearly that was not the intention. What do you attribute? Any comments that you've received? It's just disappointing.
Yes, we had one other person contact us via telephone a week or two ago. She asked for an application. We sent it out. She seemed to be very interested in participating, and then we followed up with another call because we hadn't got the application. Well, I felt, changed my mind, felt I'm going to be too busy. So I don't really have a good reason or a good explanation for you. I think it may help for us now that we're past the Christmas and New Year's season here to try once again and maybe put it on an agenda for perhaps a couple of weeks from now, maybe February 7th meeting.
Okay.
If that's your preference, I think that would make a lot of sense.
I mean, the preferred way to get volunteers is not to go out and recruit them, it's just.
I'm going to kind of disagree with that.
Pardon me?
I'm going to disagree with that because a lot of times people want to be asked. And if you go to them face to face and ask them, it's hard for them to say no. Maybe I'm.
Well, but are they doing it for the right reason? But anyway, it's just, it's unfortunate that we didn't have, as we do in certain types of committees, where we have, like on the Fair Board, we have more that apply. It just, that would have been a hope, that would have been my hope that we.
But my guess is a lot of those people were approached.
A good turnout, yeah.
In fact, I know they were.
But,
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In retrospect, looking back, I wish now that when I originally proposed this a year ago before the board that I would have just taken it on my own initiative and went to the business community and probably could have had a good plan for the board to review and then put before the voters. So I may just take this on my own because I see snail's pace on this. We're sitting at about 14 months that we've lost, and if there are other revenue options for this county, I think it'd be best for me just to take that responsibility and see if I can put a group together that is still willing to do the work. And there has been substantial work done on that in past years. So I'll further review that and just determine if that's the best way to go, and hopefully have something fairly soon for the board to take a look at.
How about this? If you can get some people to apply, and maybe I can get some people to apply, and maybe Commissioner Huxley can, let's do that. And then go from the applications there. What do you think about that?
Well, it has to be a pretty strategic committee that is willing to roll up their sleeves and has a history of working well with others, and so I'll just take that under consideration, Madam Chair.
Okay. So we will defer this, it sounds like, until what? What did you suggest?
February 7th, give us enough time to get
February
another press
7th.
release out there. And,
Okay, that's a little less than a month.
Yeah.
I think we could do that.
And I do want, if I may, Madam Chair, thank Roxanne and Catherine Wiley for applying. Appreciate their interest in the future economic fate of Curry County. So
Good.
very glad that at least we had two.
so I assume we still do have two, is that correct?
Yeah, we've still got two.
You're not withdrawing, right, Roxanne? All right, love it.
That's
I don't
part of
see
her
Catherine
job. She
here.
can't.
I actually live here too, so.
Yeah, she
Okay,
lives in
so she
Brookings,
has-
correct? Yes, yep.
Some interest.
And I would support what you're saying to bring it back, and hopefully get some people that want to, for the right reasons.
Okay.
To
Sounds good. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the Railroad Street lease. So I'm Administrator Hitt. Do you want
Right, so just, we've already had, of course, a brief discussion on that, and again, my apologies. I thought that had gone out to you all via email.
Oh, no. Oh, you want to get your thumb drive or your flash drive?
Yeah, please go ahead. No, you don't need to apologize.
No extra charge.
Yeah. That didn't go out to you, it should have. I certainly recognize that that was a misstep, and I'll certainly take the blame for that. I should have followed up and make sure you had received that, and I didn't do that. But I would add too that besides the terms of the lease that Councilor Huddle pointed out, that this is a nonprofit organization, so I felt they were a good match. It was felt that they would be there would be some synergies between them and our Veterans Administration office there, as well as with a couple of other folks that had at least talked about the possibility of sharing three of the offices down on Railroad Street in Brookings. So I feel it's a beneficial lease to both organizations, but I certainly understand the desire to carefully review these matters. They are important, no question. But nevertheless would recommend, if you feel comfortable, recommend that you approve the lease as submitted.
So moved, Madam Chair. Approve the leases as amended, or the lease.
Do we have a second? I'll second that. Any discussion?
I will not prove something I haven't read, so
Okay,
I think
I
it's
understand.
irresponsible to do so, period.
I'd trust County Council explicitly on that, so, and we have reviewed some of it in the past, so, and identical leases. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
No.
Aye. Okay, moving on. We've done the public hearing, old business, status of Brookings Head Start. Council Huddle?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board of Commissioners. I want to just say the document from me in the file is actually a draft and not complete, and I was looking for more input on it before presenting it to the board. But at the same time, notwithstanding those comments on the draft, I would like to give the board an update on the Brookings Head Start project. If you recall, the idea when we last talked about this was, I think three things. One, obtain an appraisal. Two, obtain a whole hazard building inspection from a commercial inspector. And then three, do staff time tracking on the work involved that essentially we're not being paid for. And so what I did in my memo, or at least in my work, we did do an appraisal. We have a value on the two lots considered together of $370,000, which again, it's considerably higher than the than the one we had received from the real estate agent.
It was what, 315? wasn't it?
Sure. Well, hers I think was two something.
I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but regardless, again, hers was one pager. This one has comps. You can all look at it if you want. There's another step in with the federal grant is to have a review appraisal. So Tracy Loomis is here, and she is working on one of the other things that the board said. I know they said track your time, but also I think the board communicated that they would like CCD as the grant administrator by contract for the county to be more involved in the procurement. So Tracy has put together the procurement for what's called the review appraiser, and is putting that out. So you get under the federal grant guidelines, you need an appraisal and a review appraiser. So we'll have a review appraiser do that. And then we'll have the appraisal element done. At the time I wrote the memorandum, it was near the holiday slowdown period. I'd made some phone calls to a commercial inspector. They'd made some phone calls back, but we were just going around in circles, and so I was not optimistic when I wrote the memorandum. Seems like right as soon as the packet got published, we were contacted. We have a commercial appraisal. I think about $1,700, $1,800 is going to be the amount that it's going to cost, and that person will be getting started on that. So we will have those two items. And then my time tracking, you've seen a time tracking from me before when I talked about the time I took on the Brookings Airport. So I did the same kind of time tracking on this project, and it came up, and it actually came up less than what I thought, but I think for my calculations, and again, I asked someone to check my math when I shot my memo around, but it showed about 2.4% of my time since the October request to track the time till I wrote the memorandum was spent on this. So again, and I think I might have assumed what my salary was and came up with a figure of what 2.4% of my salary is, what the county would be spending on staff of not compensated by a grant. So basically, it's an in-kind contribution coming out of general fund and some of the other funds for the most part. So that's really the status. I thought when I wrote this that we would have enough to make a decision whether to go forward or not, but I'd like to retract that because we don't have the whole hazard building inspection. We don't have the Yellow Book appraisal, but so really not seeking any board action, board decision right now. There's just a status of the steps that the board asked us to take at the last time we talked about it. So if there's any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Huxley?
On your memo, on the second page, as you go through the staff time, what exactly, and then you get into a multiplier of 18 times the above and do this, multiply it, divide it by 3, and it comes out 2.4%. But what is the capacity of this time that you're calling staff time? Is this for legal review? Is this for project management? What is this time for? Exactly.
Well, this was, thank you. So again, what's not included in this is my timesheet. And again, with the Brookings Airport, I gave you a timesheet that involved all the activities on the Brookings Airport. My time involved all the activities that I had done on this grant from when the board made the decision in October to take these next two steps, the appraisal and the whole hazard building inspection. That's when I began tracking my time. So what my time involved there, one was making some phone calls, finding an appraiser who could.
Okay, but not managing the project.
Well,
I just wanted to make sure that it is not included.
Let me ask what you mean by managing the project. I mean, it wasn't purely legal. So if I were to say what purely legal work would be, to me that would be reviewing documents, doing a legal review of documents, and then putting a recommendation out to a John Hitt or a Tracy Loomis or somebody else saying this document is legal.
Well, you're forecasting this over 3 years. What is this time that you're forecasting for a 3-year period?
Okay, so it is basically procuring contractors, looking at what the statutes are to procure a contractor, reviewing the grant terms for contract procurement, working with that, working with Tracy Loomis and telling Tracy, listen, I think, I would like you to do more procurement work here, and things like that, talking to the state to see if we have the right terms in our agreement, the people from the Infrastructure Finance Authority who came down and spoke with us. So a lot of emails of, and so when you say project management, at this point, it's not managing a construction project, if that's what your question is.
Yeah, because there's
no construction going on.
Well, no, I understand, but that's what I wanted to clarify. What was this forecast? And it is not for actual project management, which we did not have in the scope of the work.
Correct, and I would not be doing the project management.
So because if you had said yes, I would have said this is absurdly low.
Yeah.
It doesn't even begin to, and that's non-compensatable also.
Right.
For
Well,
the terms.
and that's where You know, and I anticipate what we'll have is a general who will do a lot of the subs, and
Okay.
but I, you know, that would be,
Okay, so.
I would hope John Hitt's task in this project. But
Okay, but not,
Yeah.
from the reality, more legal, you know, with legal expertise in different areas that you've addressed there.
right, this
Okay.
2.4% is primarily
Okay,
getting contracts, but not managing contracts. If there's a distinction. But
Oh,
I think,
absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what it is. Yeah.
okay.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, what's incomplete from here? So the other people who I asked, you know, I asked Brenda to get me her time back, John Hitt to get me his time back, John Jesuit and Eric Hansen, the people who are involved in this, and Louise, and I didn't hear back from anyone so far on what their time was in administering this grant. So this is incomplete. It's just a status update. I don't have a recommendation, and I don't think the board has enough information to decide. But we'll have additional information later. So really, this is just an interim update without asking any decisions to be made.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For almost a year, I've tried to do my part to figure out a way to keep this project afloat, and been to the present facility at least 4 times. Administrator Hitt and I were there, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. And I was in disagreeing with Commissioner Huxley on perhaps walking away from this project. My interest was to really make it something that the community could be proud of and keep that $1.6 million in our county. However, the more I look at that building, it's a 50-year-old building minimum. And just the more I analyze it, evaluate it, process it, I don't know if it's in the best interest of what we're trying to accomplish here. There are commercial buildings available in Brookings that would not take anywhere near that amount of significant rehabilitation or reconstruction, remodel, whatever. And so I'm just asking the board here to consider that maybe we want to have a real meeting of the minds on this, perhaps a workshop, and see what our other options are before we spend any more time on this. And maybe it is in the best interest of the county to walk away. I've been told that we can, correct me if I'm wrong, go through CCD and redirect these funds towards another building and do that search. If I'm right on that, and if that is correct, then that's about the only approach I'm interested in pursuing.
Well, it seems to me there's going to be a whole lot more money spent on appraisals, et cetera, on the existing buildings, so.
It's just been a tough thing from the very beginning, way before you and I got here, so.
Oh, that's true. Any other comments? Okay. Do we want to talk about how we're going to proceed on this?
At this point, the board gave direction to obtain the appraisal and the whole hazard building inspection, and we're under contract, at least with the whole hazard. I suppose we could terminate it, and if the board wanted to just terminate the whole idea, it was always been an option. The state said they'd consider it a planning grant. So it's up to the board.
Tracy, do you have anything to say about this?
I can't really.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
You wanna
Tracy,
get up
you
to
have
the
to go,
microphone?
yeah.
I hesitate to speak on behalf of the state because they know those rules. CDBG, going to, what comes to mind first, going to a new location, using those CDBG grant funds, those are HUD funds, federal, pass through the state. There would still be the appraisal process. You know, they would have to
Be
have
going back
that.
to square one, right?
If it was, you know, a purchase, there would be URA process if there was a tenant, you know, that's part of it. The environmental review, which we've started on this location, but we put a halt to that. Why spend that time and bill that, you know, for something that we had on hold? So we have not. But part of that has been done. but it would have to be done. So, you know, it'd be an interesting conversation with Orca also, because they are the ones that would come up with the additional funds if they could, you know, for completion of any of the requirements. So there's still requirements with CDBG, that free money.
So would you suggest a workshop to discuss this further before we dump any more money into this project? And I know it's not
think I
our money, but
would.
it's the people's money, so.
You're
Yes.
agreeing? I missed
Mr.
that.
Huxley?
Well, I mean, I think that before you spend another dime, if there's a different location, you know, that you all might want to consider, yeah, try and stop this now and have that discussion, because everything we have for this location, we can keep, you know. So if the current location is still going to be the best after your workshop, you just continue on.
I've become a little biased against that building because it's also incredibly odd shaped, and it's not
It
very
is.
big, and so I've got cold feet, Madam Chair, and so I think a workshop is in order.
Commissioner Huxley?
I'm just sort of in awe that we're at this point, because while I disagreed with the last recommendation, it was on a basically consensus of 2-1 to proceed. We haven't finished that. We're saying that, yes, it's extra money, but all of that, other than some of the time of county council and support staff, was also reimbursable. So here we've gone 6 weeks more, and now we're going to try and cut it, possibly. I just think, I just sort of,
Do you have an opinion on
mind-boggling. You know, to halt that, I would say that you shouldn't halt it, at least get that done, but because we also talked on this other scenario, and it was that way, if you change locations, you've opened up
Another
on
Pandora's
a
box?
whole another Pandora's box.
But if it's the right thing to do? Do you have
Okay.
do you have an opinion on the building, the location?
I don't, and I don't think it's appropriate for us to, what our opinion is, you know, and that's one of the reasons that we had finally, you know, better late than never, to get someone to actually do some of these inspections on it. And then all of a sudden to approve that with the state saying that, yes, we'll compensate you for that also, not for your legal time, but we'll compensate for those costs. And then 6 weeks or whatever later to say, well, let's stop that when it's that close. I don't know that I wouldn't support that.
And one thing I might throw out too is, before any decisions are made, to contact the Tawny Beans of the world and make sure that it's okay to take those remaining CDBG dollars and make that into, I mean, it's the same project per se, but it's a different project. Because I can't, like I said, I can't answer on behalf of the state and all their rules and regs, but I think that would be number one. Can this be a different animal? And can we proceed time-wise? You know, things like that. Be good.
Commissioner Boyce?
My hunch is, and maybe you can give your opinion on this, that they will do everything they can to work for us, with us, within the guidelines. And as far as if we make a bad decision, my responsibility is to have an opinion on that. So that's why I'm expressing it today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I guess the big question is, do we want to proceed with the inspections? My gut says, let's just move forward, and as we discussed earlier. Do you have a recommendation, administrative?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little bit conflicted on this project, somewhat like Commissioner Boyce, just in the big picture, but I think for now we probably ought to focus on the smaller picture and just go ahead and do the inspections and analysis that you all previously, on a 2-1 vote, previously approved. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, Commissioner Huxley.
For county council with a question, you know, an idea at this point, because you would be the most familiar with where we are on these particular tasks now. What would be your estimate as far as when this these tasks may be completed?
I would like to think by February 7th. I don't know how long a review appraisal takes, but my understanding of a review appraisal is it's not going out to do a full appraisal. It's just looking at the appraisal document to see if it followed the right procedures and stuff. So, you know, I would like to think if we'd get that person under contract within hopefully a week or so, and then the review appraisal could be done by maybe February 7th. That would also be my anticipation on the whole building inspection. We are under contract with that individual. And they're in Brookings, I believe, so right in the location of the building. And then the other parts of the puzzle that we haven't talked about are, you know, Head Start folks. We've had Mike Lehman come here before. And then also SOU. This building is currently still owned by Southern Oregon, excuse me, Southwest
Oregon.
Walker.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
worries, yeah.
I misspoke. So, you know, and again, there was this grant was more than just for us. It was almost for some other parties as well. It's kind of a three-party plan, so the building was sort of important to it. But I'd like to hear from everyone else. And again, we lost our SWAC representative just recently, Mr. Balsiger. So, you know, yeah. So really, but I still think it's important. So what I think makes sense is we have either a workshop the end of January, beginning of February, or at least a presentation. We provide all the information, the appraisal, review appraisal, and building inspection, and we hear from the other two parties to the grant agreements, the SWAC and ORCA. And again, other than 2.4% of my time fiddling around with contract work and making phone calls and emails and stuff, I don't know that would be a lot of expense from the county. And it's, again, I think we've established it's essentially no risk. The IFA would say we could pull the plug at that time and they wouldn't try to recuperate any funds from grant.
And I think we had that understanding.
So
Again, I'm just looking at the calendar. The 7th is the first Tuesday in February.
Oh, sorry, did I not pick a Wednesday?
Or I'm sorry, the first Wednesday.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all right.
I'm sorry. So, more realistically, another week after that?
14th.
Yeah, perhaps. The only other thing is John Hitt will not be here on the 14th, I don't think, but.
We're doomed.
Yeah. But other than that, I
Lucky
think
you.
the 14th would be just fine for a
Okay.
workshop.
So at least to give us a better idea.
You wouldn't be able to make any decision
rather than say sometime in the future and either to.
Okay.
Or
I would rather be more educated on the whole issue before
Very
making
good.
any decisions, so.
Well, we'll plan on bringing this back on the 14th then.
Okay.
Okay.
We need a
there was-
motion.
I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry.
it's consensus. This wasn't even seeking any action, so just consensus, we'll bring it back. Thank you, Commissioner.
There was a comment that somebody with SWAC was no longer, could you clarify just for the record? what that-
Les Ballinger? Is that-
Balsinger?
Balsinger.
He passed.
He passed very suddenly.
Yes.
And he had been the
He was
dean.
the superintendent or the
He
dean?
was the dean.
He was the dean.
Executive Dean,
Facilities, yeah.
Brookings, Curry
Yep.
County Branch.
At the Curry County branch of SWAC.
Great guy.
Yeah, he was, and
Great guy.
he was really energetic about this project, and just again, very sad and shocking.
Tough negotiator. Not that I could
I
negotiate.
thought he was a real easy to get along with person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, announcements. January 24th is the Board of Commissioners workshop at 10 a.m. In the hearing room, it will be about the airport sales status and revised personnel rules. January 31st, Board of Commissioners workshop, 10 a.m. January 31st, Board of Commissioners special meeting, 1:30 p.m. About Hamilton Lane. February 7th, Board of Commissioners general meeting at 10 a.m. February 19th, county offices will be closed for President's Day. And then we have a report from Administrator Hitt.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman, Commissioners.
Yes.
Sorry.
On the announcements, and I've addressed this 3 times now. We absolutely need to add, we just went through this group that we weren't able to get enough volunteers on on this task force, but we need to put down, there's still, to my knowledge, well, they're certainly not here, any mention of this budget committee opening. Do we still have a budget committee opening for the North County? And my question, I mean, it needs to go on the announcements. And also, what if, and here's a what if a question for county council, you know, you have appointed committee openings for planning commissions, for example, and their various counties. And we're short on those, and they just continue with the planning commission with fewer planning commission members. What would be the scenario with the budget committee if we don't end up with a committee member for the North County? Does it work the same? Would you then just you hold your budget meeting with one less member? I don't know what the answer to that question is.
Well, I think the state statute on budget committees talks about you need the equal number of citizen members, and of course the state's not going to say you need a north, central, and south. That's our own thing. So it may be possible, Mr. Chair, that we could amend our rules to fill the spot and not have a North County person on there. Again, that's just a quick, curbside analysis here, but based on my understanding of state budget law, I think our requirement on the north, central, and south is our own doing, and we may be able to change that to meet our needs.
Administrator Hitt?
And we do actually have 2 applicants that are from not North County. One's from Hunter Creek. John, you remember where the other one? Oh, so just one applicant at this point.
Is she North County?
No. The remaining applicant lives in the Hunter Creek area.
How about
Gold
this?
Beach.
Could we put some sort of a little article in the newspaper, Port Orford News?
We did that before, but we can do it again, absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've been recruiting pretty hard, and they're not the people I know haven't give up, but
We just don't want to make decisions a week before the budget hearings. That's the reason I'm.
I
Okay.
got you.
Yep.
Totally
so do we need a
understood.
consensus on an additional ad in the Port Orford News, perhaps?
I think we could just tell him to do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be an
No,
ad. We
no,
can
we can
do
do
a
a press
nice little
release.
article.
Yeah.
Would they do an article? Would the
You know what? Matt
Yeah.
Hall is really good
Papers.
about putting articles in there.
We
He
did
is.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll do that. Okay, do you want to complete your report or
Oh,
start
yes,
it?
yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. We already introduced Richard Christensen, so I don't need to do that. Just to confirm up my unpaid administrative leave, county administrator schedule. So I would be leaving on February 10th, returning on March 11th. So my last day in the office would be February 9th. My first day back in the office would be March 12th. I have designated, particularly in light of the tower, urgent need to renegotiate or in many cases impose a first-time lease on our tower usage and the many improvement projects we need to consider to keep our communication systems in force. I've asked David Marshall to function as a special projects coordinator and getting that, coordinating with the many different public agencies that use our towers, establishing new lease rates, new lease agreements, and getting those out to those various agencies, both public and private, as soon as possible in order to bring them back to you for approval, hopefully sometime in the early spring. I want to comment and express my regret for the resignation of the county surveyor. I agree with Commissioner Boyce. I think he did an outstanding job of service to the public. He did so at a very, very minimal compensation, much below what you would normally expect to have to pay for a licensed surveyor. And also want to express my regret and best wishes to our former county roadmaster, Doug Robbins. Also outstanding service to the county as he moves on to a new position in the Portland area. Also wanted to address under miscellaneous the situation with our Veterans Office. I wanted also to express the intense regret and apologies for a breakdown in communications there between our Veterans Office and the public. We've moved to correct it. I believe it's at least mostly corrected. We've got a couple more things we need to do there to improve that, particularly the internet side of that communications piece, but we're pursuing that very vigorously. Again, if any member of the public feels that, or veteran family member feels that they are not getting the level of service they should get or deserve to get, I would urge them, and hopefully the press would pass this on, please contact me directly, either at my phone number or at my email. We want to make sure that we correct this situation, which again has not been acceptable, and I'm not trying to make any excuses for it, but I do want to make sure that we correct it and we'll continue to maintain a level of service that would be acceptable to all you all as county commissioners and to our veterans that live within the county. Vital Statistics Office, we will be hiring probably in the next week or so a vital statistics person, coordinator, who will then have an office here in this building, probably down the hall somewhere. We haven't gotten a specific place yet, but we will shortly. As you may recall, that was part of our new requirement under state laws that the vital statistics tracker coordinator be a county employee. They provide the funding for it, primarily through the fees that are collected, but nevertheless, just letting the public know that we will have that person here on duty, I would say certainly not later than the 1st of February. So people needing to get vital statistics reports, marriage license, death certificates, that type of thing, they will be able to do so here in person, or of course over the phone or email here at the county offices. And then I will also certainly follow up with press releases for soliciting a North County Budget Committee representative, as well as additional people who might be interested in serving on our Citizens Revenue Task Force. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your quick response to the veteran situation. When I got the call from Mr. Bremer down in
Yes.
Brookings, he
Yes.
was very concerned, and you got right on it, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Huxley.
I have a question on time and what we're going to do with the rest of this meeting. And, you know, again, following what our meeting policy is now and what we still have here, we have
Commissioner's report.
15 minutes there. We have another 15. I expect it will be more because we've added some union negotiations. So what are we going to
Well,
have a lunch break and then come back and do the whatever 30 or 45 minutes that's required there or more?
well, I know we have a meeting at 2:30.
Okay.
So, what is your pleasure, folks?
Well,
I would prefer you do a lunch break so that John Jesuit can take his lunch break.
Mandatory lunch
Yep.
break?
Do
Okay.
we,
well, and we changed our policy to accommodate that
That's
too.
true.
That's the
We did.
reason I'm bringing this up.
Okay,
Just,
so,
just for the record, Madam Chair, Commissioners, while we have to give Mr. Jesuit a 1-hour lunch break, it does not have to be at noon.
Oh.
It can.
Okay.
There is flexibility there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Yeah. But at any rate, just that's FYI.
So do we want to do commissioners' comments and then, but we
You could
postpone the last agenda
split it
item
up between
Well,
the
we
two.
can't postpone the last.
till after lunch?
Well, yeah, we take, yeah, that, I mean, that's
Okay.
whatever we want to do.
we can either
can do
do the
either.
commissioners' comments and then break and then come back and do the executive session, or we can do a break and then commissioners' comments.
I say, what's the policy, what's our policy that we're trying to follow?
We have
changed
to,
We changed the policy to do 2 hours,
2 hours, and then we
lunch in
make
2
a
hours.
motion.
And I could, you know,
Then we make a motion to, if we want to extend the meeting for a couple of minutes. I don't know how long your commissioner comments are. I can say mine
3
in
minutes.
mine are going to probably be 15 minutes
15 minutes?
at
Okay.
least.
I think maybe we ought to take a break for lunch and then come back. So let's take a break for lunch until, let's say 1:10. So we'll meet back here at 1:10.
Yours is the next big idea, and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it. If you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love, and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your connection. This is the threshold of the West. Live where you can do you and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
One of the things I really appreciate about our entire region is that we embrace who we are, and I think that's what unifies us. Once the timber and fishing industries collapsed, it took us a long time to get back on our feet. People didn't quite grasp the idea that once these jobs left, they weren't going to get other family wage jobs, and it crippled us.
Things were getting really dire. So we just saw that this was an opportunity to maybe look at that public land a little differently and how it could bring more dollars into our region.
The Wild Rivers Coast is so unique because there are more wild and scenic rivers here than anywhere else in the lower 48 states. The scenic beauty is just amazing. There's so many different places to go, from the national forest down to the protected ocean, and it's just a really special place.
I guess I didn't really know how special it was, though, until I moved away to Portland and came back and saw all the potential here.
We're uncrowded, we're unspoiled, and we're a little difficult to get to, but my God, once you come here, you fall in love.
We just thought if we could pull people to come into this Wild Rivers Coast and stay longer and explore a little farther into our backcountry, there was a lot of opportunities for them to experience.
I think our whole future is at stake here. This area is ready to go. We just need to give it a little kick in the butt.
I'm gonna be honest, when the Rural Tourism Studio came here, I was skeptical because I didn't see far enough ahead that we actually could collaborate regionally, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It's been amazing.
The Rural Tourism Studios was the first time we were able to come together as a region to talk about the future of our economy.
If we can have a strong tourism economy in this area, it's going to benefit the whole community.
We have to rely on ourselves, and I think through this program, it's sort of opened our eyes to what we could do when we work together. Community leaders really focused on 3 areas: outdoor recreation, food and agricultural tourism, and really building community relationships.
In our area, a lot of the food that's grown all gets shipped away. And so now we're realizing that we can capture some of that local food that's grown here. The Eat Fresh and Local Action Team has hosted a series of networking events bringing together the area growers with the area vendors so that we could have more local food available to the visitors to our area. And now we're seeing more local food in our grocery stores, in our restaurants, and we have a new local food co-op.
We created a farm trail from Bandon to Port Orford. We did 9 U-Pick farms, and it just gained traction, and people loved it.
Langlois is less than 500 people. It's very small. So we have to bring in tourists. And being on the farm trail, even though it's just beginning, has really helped do that. We really want to make it a destination for anybody. My mom and I began Dragonfly Farm just 3 years ago. When I found out that I could grow a seed and turn that into food, it was like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you do this? I just quit my, my day job and I just signed the paper to be an official co-owner of the farm. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life and grow with the community.
Out of the Outdoor Recreation Action Team, we came up with a series of maps that show where the best places to go recreate are. We know where we're going to send people now, and we got a great map that shows all the best places to go see.
For us to get a mapping project done to this extent is pretty impressive. We're patting ourselves on the back. I don't know anybody else is, but we're doing it.
From that, we decided that there was some places that needed help, so we came up with a mountain bike plan, and we also worked on designating a state scenic bikeway. The Outdoor Recreation Action Team was also looking at how we can make scuba diving better in this area. So we came up with the idea for a scuba fill station. So now people that want to come and dive in this area, they can dive for multiple days because they can get their tanks filled up again. When I started the Rural Tourism Studio, my business, South Coast Tours, was really small. And now we've grown to about 5 or 6 guides, and we're doing tours all over from Brookings all the way up to Coos Bay.
Overall, tourism is on the rise here. We've had a bang-up last 2 years, and it's like a breath of fresh air down here.
My hope for the area is that we still keep that sense of place.
Loving a place to death is a big concern that I have, and it's a balance. We're going to promote tourism, but we want to do it in a sustainable way. One of the biggest reasons that this area has been so successful since the tourism studio is the people that are involved. We have a lot of great, motivated, smart people who understand the need to promote tourism in the right way, and it's really all about the people.
When you live in a rural community like we do, from Bandon down to Brookings, and you're strapped for cash, relationships are crucial.
As a community, I think you need to come together and find out what your mission and goals are collectively. Then you can work into smaller groups, knowing that you have the backing of the whole community behind you.
As long as everybody's just super excited about it and passionate about what they're doing and they can work together, then anything's possible.
Own what you have and don't try to be something that you're not. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a long time. So roll up your sleeves and just dig in with an open mind.
What draws you to the Oregon coast? Is it the green and blue surf on a brilliant sunny day, or angry boiling waves during a raging winter storm? Do you prefer quiet coves or powerful breakers churning the sand? How about sand castles? Do you come for the rising tide or the setting sun, to marvel at whales gliding through the sea or flying in the sky? Reasons to travel the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are as far-reaching as your imagination. This is a spectacular part of Oregon that traces the entire coastline along Highway 101, guiding you to the sea and away again, to coastal towns big and small, lowland marshes, and breathtaking overlooks. It's a long byway stretching from the mouth of the Columbia River to the California border, 363 miles in all of some of the most unblemished, awe-inspiring seascapes you'll find anywhere. In addition to its designation as a scenic byway, Highway 101 in Oregon also has been selected as an all-American road. That means when you come here, you will experience one of only 31 roads considered to be the best of the best in America.
You know, when people come to the Oregon coast, they're really astonished how beautiful it is. And what separates it from many of the other places in North America that are coastal is how undeveloped it is. And that's because Oregon had a very far-sighted land use program back in the 1970s. We have all these wonderful state parks along the scenic byway that are perfect places to stop and enjoy nature in a relatively unspoiled way.
From the north, you begin in Astoria, the first permanent European settlement in the Pacific Northwest. It's a genuine maritime community with ship traffic from around the world seeking harbor up the Columbia. The official State Maritime Museum of Oregon sits here on the river. Beautiful Victorian houses dot the hillside. And standing 600 feet above sea level is the 125-foot Astoria Column. It features a hand-painted spiral frieze that would stretch over 500 feet if unwound. Heading south, you'll find the community of Seaside, a popular vacation spot that offers miles of public beaches, an oceanfront promenade, and a downtown core packed with restaurants, shops, and even a beach-type arcade. Cannon Beach is home to one of Oregon's most photographed natural wonders, Haystack Rock. Get your shots from the beach, or take a short drive up to Ecola State Park and look down on this 235-foot work of art. The picturesque small town is filled with art galleries, shops, and cafes. Ready for more? 10 miles to the south, this is the view from Cape Falcon. You're 700 feet above the Pacific. Here, the Pacific Coast Byway has been carved out of Neahkahnie Mountain and held in place by stone walls built in the 1930s by craftsmen in the Civilian Conservation Corps. Upon descending the mountain, the highway drifts inward around Tillamook Bay to Tillamook, the unofficial dairy capital of Oregon. The verdant valley of dairy farms in this area produces 25 million gallons of milk annually. Much of that is processed into natural cheddar cheese. And near more than 800 miles of navigable waters, Tillamook is a crossroads for North Coast recreation. From here, you owe it to yourself to veer off Highway 101 to explore the Three Capes Scenic Loop. This drive places you right at the beach, beginning with Cape Mears, home to the shortest lighthouse in Oregon. 9 lighthouses stand sentinel along Oregon's coastline. They're monuments to our maritime heritage, towering links to the past, and as much a part of the rugged Oregon coastal landscape as any offshore monolith. The Cape Mears Lighthouse was first illuminated in 1890. Oregon's oldest lighthouse is at Cape Blanco, the westernmost point in the state. It was commissioned in 1870 to aid shipping generated by gold mining and the lumber industry. The 93-foot-high Yaquina Head Lighthouse is the tallest in Oregon. Today, its automated light continues to aid navigation at the entrance to Yaquina Bay. Many of the lighthouses are open to the public. Most happen to be excellent places to view nesting seabirds and offshore sea life. Tide pools, those rocky areas between high and low tides, support unique and diverse plants and animals. Vast amounts of colorful, otherworldly creatures wait to be discovered. But walk cautiously. These organisms are tough enough to withstand the pounding surf, but are utterly vulnerable to human activity. Wildlife and sea life abound on the coast.
There are 6 national wildlife refuges along the Oregon coast. The Pacific Coast Scenic Byway bisects these refuges or goes alongside them. It provides you the opportunity to see a wide variety of abundant wildlife, including seabirds, seals and sea lions, deer and elk, and many other wildlife.
Cape Kiwanda lies at the southern end of the Three Capes Scenic Loop, near the town of Pacific City. Here you'll find a second haystack rock on the byway. Hike up the dune to marvel at stunning views of sandstone formations as they turn yellow, gold, or even red in the changing sunlight. If your timing is right, you'll spot 1 or 2 of the dory fleet sprint onto the beach after a day of fishing. How's this for a dinner setting? Restaurants along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway accommodate just about any taste. Many serve an ocean view with every meal. Up and down the coast, you'll find seafood, of course, but don't limit yourself just because you're by the water. The Central Coast begins around Lincoln City, which is one of the larger communities on the byway. It has a reputation for being windy and was recognized by Kite Lines magazine as the best place to fly a kite in North America. It was incorporated from several small towns and as a result offers a sandy beach that is 7.5 miles long. A number of small state parks lie nestled along the ocean between Lincoln City and Newport. Stop, get out of your car, and take in the commanding views that are there, right next to your all-American road. Depot Bay boasts the world's smallest navigable harbor, 6 square acres in all. A seawall runs the length of the downtown, so everywhere you go, you're rewarded with a dramatic view of the Pacific. It's considered Oregon's whale-watching capital, with thousands making their way past Oregon each fall and spring. Fishing and whale-watching excursions regularly set sail from this little harbor. Leaving Depot Bay, you'll soon find yourself at Cape Foulweather, a basalt outcropping that looms 500 feet above the water. It was here, in 1778, British Captain James Cook first sighted the mainland of North America on the Pacific coast. A fierce storm that almost put an end to his expedition earned this rugged stretch of coastline its name. Coastal weather can change by the hour. You will find a lot of wet days, but rain can become blue sky with white clouds in an afternoon. Mist kissing the headlands burns away, or storms can last for days. Some people come for those storms. Whether you find sunbursts of happiness or cloud cover like a quilt, there's always a reason to come back. Like Lincoln City, Newport is one of the larger towns on the byway. The historic bayfront on the north side of Yaquina Bay hosts one of Oregon's largest commercial fishing fleets. It has a busy, genuine working waterfront feel, with fish plants and boats coming and going from as far away as Alaska. On the south side of the bay is the Oregon Coast Aquarium. Share waters beneath the ocean with sharks and rays. And don't miss the sea otters at mealtime.
Now, all 4 of our otters were rescued otters. They were found out in the wild.
For the next 50 miles, your trip along Highway 101 hugs the coast. Many more state parks offer opportunities to stop and take in outstanding vistas, crashing waves, and offshore rock formations. 2 small towns of note are Waldport and Yachats. Waldport sits on Alsea Bay, where fishing, clamming, and crabbing are popular. The 40-mile stretch south of Waldport marks steep headlands, jagged volcanic outcrops, and jaw-dropping scenery, the rugged edge of the Oregon coast. Yachats is a quiet, unhurried artist town just a couple of miles north of Cape Perpetua. Drive to the top of this bluff, and you'll be 800 feet above the water. On a clear day, you can see 70 miles of Oregon coastline. Drive past Heceta Head Lighthouse to the Sea Lion Caves. A quick elevator ride 200 feet down puts you in America's largest sea cave, the year-round home of wild stellar sea lions. Rugged cliffs give way to graceful beaches as you approach Florence. In the spring, be on the lookout for wild rhododendrons along the roadsides. Similar to Newport, you'll find an historic Old Town commercial district along the Siuslaw River. Florence is the gateway to the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area, a 47-mile sandbox of wind-sculpted sand dunes towering 500 feet above sea level. These are the largest expanse of coastal sand dunes in North America. Reedsport is at the center of the Oregon Dunes. But you can do more than ride a dune buggy or motorcycle. A short 3 miles east of town on Highway 38, more than 100 Roosevelt elk reside at the Dean Creek Elk Viewing Area. Early mornings or just before dusk are the best times to photograph the herd. Paying homage to Oregon's timber heritage, Reedsport hosts an annual Chainsaw Sculpting Championship, a time to watch three-dimensional artwork come to life right before your eyes. Mountains of sand continue at Winchester Bay. You'll also find an active marina here. It's a great place to try your hand at crabbing or take a charter for salmon or bottom fishing. The dunes end and you enter the coast's largest urban area at Coos Bay. It has the deepest natural harbor between Seattle and San Francisco. Foreign vessels sail under the massive McCullough Bridge. You may have noticed, dotted along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are many beautiful and iconic bridges. The Megler Bridge in Astoria, Yaquina Bay Bridge in Newport, Alsea Bay Bridge in Walport, Siuslaw River Bridge in Florence, and the magnificent McCullough Bridge in Coos Bay are works of art in their own right. Charleston is slightly off the byway at the mouth of the bay. It was once an old waterfront fishing village and has become a commercial and sport fishing center. From here, the Charleston to Bandon tour route offers another side trip off the byway. It's a wonderful way to explore a variety of natural Pacific Coast beauty in a number of settings: beaches, vistas, gardens, and more. Giant sea stacks, a tiny lighthouse, and an old town await you in Bandon. Do you like to golf? This remote area on the Oregon coast has not one, but 3 of the most stunning and challenging golf courses in the world. As you drive south of town, look for brilliant red bogs in the fall. You're passing through the cranberry capital of Oregon. After a trek through forests and farmlands, you'll reach Port Orford. The wild coast has begun. You're in the most westerly city in the continental United States, and you've reached some of the most awesome scenery on the byway. Here you can watch a fishing fleet launched by crane in one of only 6 dolly ports in the world. Port Orford covers less than 2 square miles. It's similar to many communities that call this all-American road home. Small in size, still with a lot to offer. Like Manzanita, with a vibrant business district and beautiful setting at the base of Neahkahnie Mountain. You can board a fishing charter out of Garibaldi, swim in freshwater lakes near Dune City, catch world-class windsurfing at Pistol River. There is little development from Port Orford to Gold Beach, outlet for the renowned Rogue River. Feel like going for a ride? Jet boat excursions run from May into October up this wild and scenic river. Or maybe a midday walk on an uncrowded beach is more your speed. The last dozen miles of the Pacific Coast Byway leading into Brookings save some of the best for last. Treat yourself to frequent stops along the Samuel H. Boardman Scenic Corridor. Short hikes reward you with the best views in this shining stretch of coastline. Walk, relax, and be amazed along the coves and the crashing surf. The world's northernmost redwood grove is 8 miles from the mouth of the Chetco River in Brookings. So, you've toured nature's finest art museum. You've dined elegantly, hung out with sea lions, unwound like you wish you could every day. What else is there to do? Step back in history near Astoria, ride a horse along the waves near Florence, pet a baby tiger near Bandon, hike a trail, sample gourmet cheese, eat fresh-caught crab, watch a sunset.
When you come to the Oregon coast and walk on the beaches or go to the headlands and go to the small coastal towns, you really can commune with nature, and you don't have huge numbers of people, but you're also able to take in one of America's last great unspoiled seascapes.
So what draws you to the Oregon coast? What favorite places lure you back again and again? Each visit is different. The ocean, the sky, the light, and the experience always continue to amaze. Shouldn't you be there?
There's something about having land and sea. Never having to choose between digging in or looking out. Here, you can go where the spirit or the wind moves you. To the tops of the trees, along secluded beaches, or into more wild and scenic rivers than anywhere else in the western United States. We're the closest place to the sunset while still keeping your feet dry, and a destination where anyone can begin. We share more than we keep, so you can see more than you imagined. This is a place you have to touch, hold, and feel to believe. The entire shoreline of the West Coast's best coast is open to you, and playgrounds made of forests are waiting for you. Escape to Curry County and don't leave anything out.
Roadway departure fatalities are a serious and often preventable problem in the United States. The Federal Highway Administration reports that 54% of all highway fatalities are caused by drivers leaving their lane of travel. The Oregon Department of Transportation is taking a proactive approach to reduce this kind of tragedy by implementing a centerline and shoulder rumble strip program.
Rumble strips are one of the most low-cost, cost-effective countermeasures that we can apply across the system.
Rumble strips are grooved patterns on the roadway that make a rumbling sound and a physical vibration, immediately warning inattentive drivers that they're leaving their driving lane. Rumble strips allow drivers to self-correct and avoid an accident.
About 67% of fatal crashes in Oregon are road departure crashes, which are a vehicle can leave the lane to the right and hit a ditch or a rock or a tree, something like that, or cross over the center line to the left and get in a head-on collision or a sideswipe meeting type crash.
Over an 8-year period, ODOT engineers studied segments of 16 different highways and concluded that rumble strips are highly effective at reducing lane departures.
We did a before and after crash analysis to find that we have reduced head-on fatalities by 40% with the installation of centerline rumble strips.
We've been trying to find a way to deal with a problem that seems to be increasing over the last 10 or 15 years with our drivers, and that's distracted driving. And there's a lot of things that cause distracted driving. All these distractions are things that make people take their attention away from where it should be.
Comparisons between other available safety features like guardrail and concrete barriers show that shoulder and centerline rumble strips are the most cost-effective safety treatment available.
We're finding that those are very effective in trying to make sure that when you do make that mistake, it's not the last mistake you make. They help bring your attention back to the driving task and bring you back to where you should be, focusing on being in the middle of your lane and being safe.
ODOT makes a conscious effort to use a bike-friendly rumble strip design where possible and installs 12-foot bike gaps every 48 feet of rumble strip. ODOT understands that rumble strips create a noise that can be disruptive for people who live near rural highways, and we're trying to address these concerns with different approaches.
For the noise, we're looking at some new designs. We're hoping that the new design rumble strip will be just as effective at saving people from making an error and much quieter, on the order of 10 times as quiet. And we're actually going to be installing our first full set of these style of rumble strips along 205 this summer.
So we recognize that noise is a concern, but one of the things I like to tell people is whenever you hear the sound of a rumble strip, it could be the sound of the life being saved of one of your loved ones.
Rumble strips are proven to save lives. The Oregon Department of Transportation is taking the lead in implementing the sound of safety.
I love walking. It's what I do. So who better to share some tips to help keep your walk safe? Wait for the signal. Take in the sights and smells till you get the go-ahead to cross. Use intersections to cross, but when you can't, remember your training. Always look left, right, left. Show you want to cross and wait for all lanes of traffic to stop. And make eye contact so you know the driver sees you. Hi there. Good human. You get a treat when we get home.
Sign that doesn't have a rider on it, so we take our first test at this posted speed limit of 35
Bar
miles
weeks
per
at
hour.
Harley Bills are seeing more than their share of curvy roads these days. Their job is to drive every stretch of highway in Region 1 several times. All this driving back and forth.
That way we can get it all the way up. All right, sounds good.
Okay. The old limits were set back in the 1930s and 40s and were changed very little until just recently. So now our limits are taking into account newer vehicles, a little bit more aggressive driving style, and so those limits are going up.
And going up in a big way. This is Eric Leeming, a traffic devices engineer with ODOT. He's driving an ordinary car with some extraordinary tech on board, a GPS device that records data as he maneuvers every curve in the road. Back at his office, Eric can upload the data recorded in the car, and special software determines exactly the right speed for every curve, every time. Most speeds will increase by 5 to 10 miles per hour, but in some special cases, it's much higher.
The state has a deadline of 2019 from the Federal Highway Administration, but with 8,000 miles of roads to investigate and potentially thousands of signs to change, they're not wasting any time. They're getting out there right now.
Then we're going to the W113.
About 800 signs along this section.
That's a lot of signs.
It's a lot of signs. If it's a 35-mile-an-hour corner, you should be taking it at 35 miles an hour.
America's 3,069 county governments provide fundamental services for building healthy, safe, and vibrant communities. We are an intergovernmental partner, implementing federal and state policies at the local level, often under strict rules and funding constraints. County governments, through the National Association of Counties, engage federal policymakers on a range of issues like transportation, infrastructure, healthcare, public safety, and public lands management. All of these issues are vital to our nation's quality of life and our long-term prosperity. Decisions made by the White House, Congress, and federal courts have a major cascading impact on our ability to lead our communities and pursue a better future. Let's look at why federal policies matter to county government and why county government matters to America. Counties provide vital services that keep our communities thriving and secure. We own and maintain 45% of roads and 4 out of 10 bridges. We own more than a third of the airports and hundreds of hospitals and thousands of courthouses, jails, 911 call centers, and libraries. We play a critical role during emergencies like hurricanes, floods, and snowstorms. What if you called 911 and no one answered? What if you couldn't reach your medical facility because roads and bridges were in disrepair or never built? County governments are an indispensable part of the infrastructure and services that keep residents safe and connected. But with very limited revenue options under most state constitutions and laws, counties must make every penny count in order to fulfill federal and state mandates and required responsibilities. Nothing is more basic in our society than essential public facilities like schools, hospitals, airports, jails, bridges, and other infrastructure. Yet proposals have surfaced to eliminate or scale back tax-exempt municipal bonds. For over a century, municipal bonds have been the lifeblood for our nation's public infrastructure, helping finance more than $3.7 trillion in essential projects. If tax-exempt municipal bonds were eliminated or scaled back, county governments and our residents would face billions in new costs when financing vital facilities. Additionally, counties rely on MAP 21 and the Federal Highway Trust Fund to complement local transportation financing resources. With growing demands and mounting costs, we need a reliable federal partner to invest with us in our nation's economic growth and competitiveness. We need a long-term legislative solution with increased funding to ensure continued success in operating our nation's transportation system. Counties face further revenue losses each year because billions of dollars in e-commerce sales tax revenue isn't collected. The Marketplace Fairness Act would enable states and localities to collect existing, already owed taxes. It would also level the playing field between many internet retailers who don't collect sales taxes and Main Street businesses that do. County governments provide support services to federal public lands, touching 700 million annual visitors. We lead search and rescue operations, fight fires, protect the public's health, and maintain roads. Federal lands cover nearly 1/3 of the U.S. and impact 69% of counties. Because federal land is exempt from local property taxes, counties depend on PILT, the Payment in Lieu of Taxes program, to provide essential services. The Secure Rural Schools program provides assistance to rural counties and school districts affected by the decline in revenue from timber harvests on federal land. Decisions to cut or delay funding both programs undermine our ability to provide services and maintain public lands. Our intergovernmental partnerships don't end with legislation because counties also implement and comply with federal and state regulations. When considering environmental protections, we know our communities and care deeply about the environment. We need a stronger voice in shaping common-sense regulations that protect communities while also promoting economic growth. This is why NACO secured significant improvements to FEMA's flood insurance program and is pushing back on the waters of the U.S. proposed rule. Our message: federal policies matter to county government, and county government matters to America. Every level of government must work together to shape policies that improve the quality of life for all Americans. Whether it's building and maintaining infrastructure, providing essential services, or fostering economic growth, counties are on the front line serving their citizens. NACO stands ready to work with the administration and Congress to make our nation's communities healthier, safer, and more vibrant places to live and work.
See Allison at lunch today? I'm gonna text her. I'm gonna text Allison. Hey, hold up, Matt's calling me. Matt's calling me. Hey, we got the food and we're on our way right now. Hey, who's coming, bro? You're the one who needs help.
Counties matter. Counties serve nearly every American every day. Urban, suburban, and rural, counties work with states, the federal government, and other public and private partners to keep our communities healthy, vibrant, and safe. Whether you're commuting to work or shipping goods around the globe, counties matter. Counties own and maintain 45% of the nation's roads and 4 out of 10 bridges. And we're involved in nearly a third of public airports and transit systems. Counties matter when Americans need us the most. Counties matter because we support smart, fair, and effective criminal justice systems. We help fund police and sheriff's departments. We own and operate local jails, 911 call centers, and mental health facilities. Counties create healthy communities. We invest more than $80 billion in hospitals and medical services each year. Counties matter because we invest in the lives of residents of all ages, improving their quality of life where they live and work. Counties are the building blocks of state, regional, and national economies. We support housing, recreation, and economic development. And we do so much more. From issuing birth certificates to administering elections, counties employ more than 3.5 million people. In total, we invest more than $500 billion in our residents and our communities every year. Counties provide essential services we all depend on every day. That's why counties matter.
How many letters?
5 letters.
Just think about, what am I doing right now?
Smile. Smile?
Uh-huh.
This is so easy.
Why do counties matter? Simple. Counties provide the services we all depend on. If you're concerned about crime, get a regular flu shot. Drive to work. Take public transportation. Or experience a natural disaster in your community. Chances are you benefit from county services. That's why counties matter. With America's system of federalism, counties are a key level of government, serving the people directly. So, do you vote? Had a recent hospital stay? Know someone in a nursing home? More reasons why counties matter. There are 3,069 counties across the country, with populations big and small. Most of us live and work in one. Even the nation's capital is considered a county. These county governments ensure that the food you eat in restaurants is safe. They care for the mentally ill, run court systems, build local economies, and operate 911 emergency systems. They manage parks and recreation facilities. And the list goes on. Thing is, counties serve the American people in so many ways, keeping our communities healthy, vibrant, safe, and fiscally sound. That's why counties matter.
Yeah, I just picked her up. We should be there in 20 minutes.
Who is it? Oh, it's him. Where is he?
Yeah, I know.
If yours is the next big idea, and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it, if you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love, and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your connection. This is the threshold of the West. Live where you can do you, and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
One of the things I really appreciate about our entire region is that we embrace who we are, and I think that's what unifies us. Once the timber and fishing industries collapsed, it took us a long time to get back on our feet. People didn't quite grasp the idea that once these jobs left, they weren't going to get other family wage jobs, and it crippled us.
Things were getting really dire. So we just saw that this was an opportunity to maybe look at that public land a little differently and how it could bring more dollars into our region.
The Wild Rivers Coast is so unique because there are more wild and scenic rivers here than anywhere else in the lower 48 states. The scenic beauty is just amazing. There's so many different places to go, from the national forest down to the protected ocean, and it's just a really special place.
I guess I didn't really know how special it was, though, until I moved away to Portland and came back and saw all the potential here.
We're uncrowded, we're unspoiled, and we're a little difficult to get to, but my God, once you come here, you fall in love.
We just thought if we could pull people to come into this Wild Rivers Coast and stay longer and explore a little farther into our backcountry, there was a lot of opportunities for them to experience.
I think our whole future is at stake here. This area is ready to go. We just need to give it a little kick in the butt.
I'm gonna be honest, when the Rural Tourism Studio came here, I was skeptical because I didn't see far enough ahead that we actually could collaborate regionally, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It's been amazing.
The Rural Tourism Studios was the first time we were able to come together as a region to talk about the future of our economy.
If we can have a strong tourism economy in this area, it's going to benefit the whole community.
We have to rely on ourselves, and I think through this program, it's sort of opened our eyes to what we could do when we work together. Community leaders really focused on 3 areas: outdoor recreation, food and agricultural tourism, and really building community relationships.
In our area, a lot of the food that's grown all gets shipped away. And so now we're realizing that we can capture some of that local food that's grown here. The Eat Fresh and Local Action Team has hosted a series of networking events bringing together the area growers with the area vendors so that we could have more local food available to the visitors to our area. And now we're seeing more local food in our grocery stores, in our restaurants, and we have a new local food co-op.
We created a farm trail from Bandon to Port Orford. We did 9 U-Pick farms, and it just gained traction, and people loved it.
Langlois is less than 500 people. It's very small. So we have to bring in tourists. And being on the farm trail, even though it's just beginning, has really helped do that. We really want to make it a destination for anybody. My mom and I began Dragonfly Farm just 3 years ago. When I found out that I could grow a seed and turn that into food, it was like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you do this? I just quit my day job and I just signed the paper to be an official co-owner of the farm. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life and grow with the community.
Out of the Outdoor Recreation Action Team, we came up with a series of maps that show where the best places to go recreate are. We know where we're going to send people now, and we got a great map that shows all the best places to go see.
For us to get a mapping project done to this extent is pretty impressive. We're patting ourselves on the back. I don't know if anybody else is, but we're doing it.
From that, we decided that there was some places that needed help, so we came up with a mountain bike plan, and we also worked on designating a state scenic bikeway. The Outdoor Recreation Action Team was also looking at how we can make scuba diving better in this area. So we came up with the idea for a scuba fill station. So now people that want to come and dive in this area, they can dive for multiple days because they can get their tanks filled up again. When I started the Rural Tourism Studio, my business, South Coast Tours, was really small. And now we've grown to about 5 or 6 guides, and we're doing tours all over from Brookings all the way up to Coos Bay.
Overall, tourism is on the rise here. We've had a bang-up last 2 years, and it's like a breath of fresh air down here.
My hope for the area is that we still keep that sense of place.
Loving a place to death is a big concern that I have, and it's a balance. We're going to promote tourism, but we want to do it in a sustainable way. One of the biggest reasons that this area has been so successful since the tourism studio is the people that are involved. We have a lot of great, motivated, smart people who understand the need to promote tourism in the right way, and it's really all about the people.
When you live in a rural community like we do, from Bandon down to Brookings, and you're strapped for cash, relationships are crucial.
As a community, I think you need to come together and find out what your mission and goals are collectively. Then you can work into smaller groups, knowing that you have the backing of the whole community behind you.
As long as everybody's just super excited about it and passionate about what they're doing and they can work together, then anything's possible.
Own what you have and don't try to be something that you're not. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a long time. So roll up your sleeves and just dig in with an open mind.
What draws you to the Oregon coast? Is it the green and blue surf on a brilliant sunny day, or angry boiling waves during a raging winter storm? Do you prefer quiet coves or powerful breakers churning the sand? How about sand castles? Do you come for the rising tide or the setting sun, to marvel at whales gliding through the sea or flying in the sky? Reasons to travel the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are as far-reaching as your imagination. This is a spectacular part of Oregon that traces the entire coastline along Highway 101, guiding you to the sea and away again, to coastal towns big and small, lowland marshes, and breathtaking overlooks. It's a long byway stretching from the mouth of the Columbia River to the California border, 363 miles in all, of some of the most unblemished, awe-inspiring seascapes you'll find anywhere. In addition to its designation as a scenic byway, Highway 101 in Oregon also has been selected as an all-American road. That means when you come here, you will experience one of only 31 roads considered to be the best of the best in America.
You know, when people come to the Oregon coast, they're really astonished how beautiful it is, and what separates it from many of the other places in North America that are coastal is how undeveloped it is. And that's because Oregon had a very far-sighted land use program back in the 1970s. We have all these wonderful state parks along the scenic byway that are perfect places to stop and enjoy nature in a relatively unspoiled way.
From the north, you begin in Astoria, the first permanent European settlement in the Pacific Northwest. It's a genuine maritime community with ship traffic from around the world seeking harbor up the Columbia. The official State Maritime Museum of Oregon sits here on the river. Beautiful Victorian houses dot the hillside. And standing 600 feet above sea level is the 125-foot Astoria Column. It features a hand-painted spiral frieze that would stretch over 500 feet if unwound. Heading south, you'll find the community of Seaside, a popular vacation spot that offers miles of public beaches, an oceanfront promenade, and a downtown core packed with restaurants, shops, and even a beach-type arcade. Cannon Beach is home to one of Oregon's most photographed natural wonders, Haystack Rock. Get your shots from the beach, or take a short drive up to Ecola State Park and look down on this 235-foot work of art. The picturesque small town is filled with art galleries, shops, and cafes. Ready for more? 10 miles to the south, this is the view from Cape Falcon. You're 700 feet above the Pacific. Here, the Pacific Coast Byway has been carved out of Neahkahnie Mountain and held in place by stone walls built in the 1930s by craftsmen in the Civilian Conservation Corps. Upon descending the mountain, the highway drifts inward around Tillamook Bay to Tillamook, the unofficial dairy capital of Oregon. The verdant valley of dairy farms in this area produces 25 million gallons of milk annually. Much of that is processed into natural cheddar cheese. And near more than 800 miles of navigable waters, Tillamook is a crossroads for North Coast recreation. From here, you owe it to yourself to veer off Highway 101 to explore the Three Capes Scenic Loop. This drive places you right at the beach, beginning with Cape Mears, home to the shortest lighthouse in Oregon. 9 lighthouses stand sentinel along Oregon's coastline. They're monuments to our maritime heritage, towering links to the past, and as much a part of the rugged Oregon coastal landscape as any offshore monolith. The Cape Mears Lighthouse was first illuminated in 1890. Oregon's oldest lighthouse is at Cape Blanco, the westernmost point in the state. It was commissioned in 1870 to aid shipping generated by gold mining and the lumber industry. The 93-foot-high Yaquina Head Lighthouse is the tallest in Oregon. Today, its automated light continues to aid navigation at the entrance to Yaquina Bay. Many of the lighthouses are open to the public. Most happen to be excellent places to view nesting seabirds and offshore sea life. Tide pools, those rocky areas between high and low tides, support unique and diverse plants and animals. Vast amounts of colorful, otherworldly creatures wait to be discovered. But walk cautiously. These organisms are tough enough to withstand the pounding surf, but are utterly vulnerable to human activity. Wildlife and sea life abound on the coast.
There are 6 national wildlife refuges along the Oregon coast. The Pacific Coast Scenic Byway bisects these refuges or goes alongside them. It provides you the opportunity to see a wide variety of abundant wildlife, including seabirds, seals and sea lions, deer and elk, and many other wildlife.
Cape Kiwanda lies at the southern end of the Three Capes Scenic Loop, near the town of Pacific City. Here you'll find a second haystack rock on the byway. Hike up the dune to marvel at stunning views of sandstone formations as they turn yellow, gold, or even red in the changing sunlight. If your timing is right, you'll spot 1 or 2 of the dory fleet sprint onto the beach after a day of fishing. How's this for a dinner setting? Restaurants along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway accommodate just about any taste. Many serve an ocean view with every meal. Up and down the coast, you'll find seafood, of course, but don't limit yourself just because you're by the water. The Central Coast begins around Lincoln City, which is one of the larger communities on the byway. It has a reputation for being windy and was recognized by Kite Lines magazine as the best place to fly a kite in North America. It was incorporated from several small towns and as a result offers a sandy beach that is 7.5 miles long. A number of small state parks lie nestled along the ocean between Lincoln City and Newport. Stop, get out of your car, and take in the commanding views that are there, right next to your all-American road. Depot Bay boasts the world's smallest navigable harbor, 6 square acres in all. A seawall runs the length of the downtown, so everywhere you go, you're rewarded with a dramatic view of the Pacific. It's considered Oregon's whale-watching capital, with thousands making their way past Oregon each fall and spring. Fishing and whale-watching excursions regularly set sail from this little harbor. Leaving Depot Bay, you'll soon find yourself at Cape Foulweather, a basalt outcropping that looms 500 feet above the water. It was here, in 1778, British Captain James Cook first sighted the mainland of North America on the Pacific coast. A fierce storm that almost put an end to his expedition earned this rugged stretch of coastline its name. Coastal weather can change by the hour. You will find a lot of wet days, but rain can become blue sky with white clouds in an afternoon. Mist kissing the headlands burns away, or storms can last for days. Some people come for those storms. Whether you find sunbursts of happiness or cloud cover like a quilt, there's always a reason to come back.
If yours is the next big idea, and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it, if you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love, and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your connection. This is the threshold of the West. Live where you can do you, and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
There's something about having land and sea. Never having to choose between digging in or looking out. Here, you can go where the spirit or the wind moves you. To the tops of the trees, along secluded beaches, or into more wild and scenic rivers than anywhere else in the western United States. We're the closest place to the sunset while still keeping your feet dry, and a destination where anyone can begin. We share more than we keep. so you can see more than you imagined. This is a place you have to touch, hold, and feel to believe. The entire shoreline of the West Coast's best coast is open to you, and playgrounds made of forests are waiting for you. Escape to Curry County and don't leave anything out.
So we'll begin with commissioner updates. I'm just going to do them in the order they're here. I'm not going to keep track of everything. So Commissioner Boyce, you have an update.
Chair, it's his turn to go first.
I don't care about
Please
turns.
proceed.
Let's just,
Please
let's just
proceed.
go.
So,
Good things anyway.
so who's going? You're the chair. Who's going?
You are.
No, you're not the
You're
chair.
not
You're
the
the
chair.
chair.
I'm just going to go how it's listed here. Commissioner
That's the way-
Boyce.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go next. How do you like those bananas?
Yeah.
Do you want to switch for the next meeting?
I'll tell you what, why don't you
I've been
why
the
don't
first
you
every
switch
time,
them
that's,
so we
you
have,
know.
We
yeah.
can do that.
Variety.
We can certainly do that. Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
do we need a motion?
I don't think
No.
so. No. Staff can do that.
I'm gonna acquiesce here. Had my mom do some research on fires. You didn't miss much. And this is a 1938 fire that was 48,000 acres. So I'm just going to have a little handout here. That it is entitled "Lessons from Larger Fires on the Siskiyou." They called it the Siskiyou Fire. Whoops, excuse me.
For you. For me.
Oh, well.
For the record, staff Jesuit and Council Huddle. One for me. But they list several things that are very interesting. They had a system, pretty impressive, and I want to do more research on this. My mom is 86, and she loves to do that kind of info, and pretty handy. Also, I have a year in review of the things I've worked on, accomplishments that I'm going to hand out, and I'd like to have on the public record. It's 4 pages, so I will spare reading it to you. Two for you.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. And then you've heard me say in past meetings, related to the fire and outside of the consequences of this fire for our county. You've heard me say I'm working on a federal disaster declaration. Excuse me, pretty tough qualifications. But when you look at sudden oak death, sport and commercial fishing restrictions, condition of Scenic Highway 101, I so badly want to sneak down there and cut some of those trees that are spindly and blocking our views.
Come on down to my property. I'll let you anytime.
It's just, it grows so fast, does it not?
Yes, it does.
Distractions and lack of funding from pursuing biomass projects, health hazards and bad tourism, public relations resulting from mega fire summer smoke, rising crime resulting from less prevention and relating property values dropping, severely reduced ONC and U.S. Forest Service timber receipts to Curry County, the PILT payments, payment in lieu of taxes, and the secure rural schools, etc. Harbor sinkhole 2015, Harbor tsunami 2011, Port of Brookings debts and difficulties. Of course, some of that would be related, is related to the tsunami and sinkhole. Many other issues, Port Orford, Langley School District, 8th most impoverished in the nation. 5 Southwest Oregon counties recognized as economically distressed in Oregon. And Curry County is #1 and the hardest hit of those counties of the 5, so you know that makes us #1 of the 36 counties hardest hit economically. And I think perhaps the biggest one, the marijuana industrial massive growing and all the related cultural and public safety issues that go with that. It is just a snowball, and I'm going to be working diligently in a variety of ways on that issue. And Right now, Oregon is the #1 exporting marketer of high-quality marijuana in the world. We have the climate that grows incredibly good marijuana, and there are some issues, some unintended consequences that wise people are starting to understand. We need to be pretty responsive to how that can affect our children, our families, our economy, our property values, all of the above. So there's that.
Okay.
And this is a rough draft, so we're going to be adding to this list, obviously, over the years, and I have some help on that. And there's one more, finally, there's your two.
We have one extra one. Pass it back.
I'll take it back. The Senate and the President, and I think the House is going to support, there's actually $100 billion that they have appropriated for FEMA for, obviously, the hard-hit areas of, and I think I mentioned this last meeting, of Puerto Rico and Texas and Florida, certainly California, but Curry County has a story to tell. Oregon has a story to tell. We lost 750,000 acres to fires last year, and it is just something we've got to keep watching and be alert. And but also, I think the odds are improving that we can qualify for that federal disaster declaration. That'll take the governor and the president, everybody getting on the same page, and perhaps we can achieve that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll give my report next. Since I'm the garbage lady of the commission, I went to a CTR recycling meeting, and let me just give you a quick update. Brookings started on the recycling program 12/18, and there were very few complaints, and that was mostly due to the publicity that went out. And it's going to cost all of the folks in Brookings an extra $3.75 a month, but the customers can opt for smaller cans, which would be $6 less per month, so they would save $2.25 per month. This recycling program cannot happen in unincorporated areas, but it can happen in the urban growth boundary, and they're looking forward to starting that out in those areas if there's a dense enough population. Anybody who's outside of the recycling area needs to take their recyclable material to CTR. And then also they talked about a hazardous waste special event, and they talked about it costing close to $18,000 for them to come to these various areas and take the hazardous waste from individuals in the area. And they're going to be doing a rotation where Brookings is next in the rotation, Port Orford, and then they're going to do Brookings again, then Gold Beach. And this event will take place once a year, probably in August. And then I also talked to them about increases for their rates. And as you will recall, last year, our rates in the county were based on the CPI out of Portland, and that was higher than the rates of the city. So they have agreed to keep it at the same rate, and now I'm working on getting them to do whatever is lower. So that's my report. Thank you. Do you want to give that to John? Commissioner Hawksworth.
I'm going to put this up on the screen. I am going to read this into the record, and then, as it was last year, this address goes on the county website. I'll get the electronic. I've talked to John Jesuit on this.
Okay.
On the county address. Let's go. Let's see if this is the state of the county address they made in January of 2018. In number 1, the Curry County Administrator position in June 2017 on a 2-to-1 vote, Commissioners passed ordinance number 17-01, creating the position of County Administrator. effectively changing the organizational structure of the county. Of the 36 counties in Oregon, 19 are general law counties. Curry became the 11th general law county with an appointed administrator. The position of interim administrator was filled in September. Plans are currently underway to move the individual into the permanent administrator position. All department heads now report directly to the administrator, where they had previously reported to 3 commissioners. Many decisions that had required approval by the board in a publicly noticed meeting are now made by the administrator. Next topic will be road fund loans. In 2017, the Oregon State Legislature passed House Bill 3435, allowing 3 counties, including Curry, to loan restricted road fund reserves to any taxing district located within the county, another county, or any taxing district located in another county. The Board of Commissioners recently directed staff to bring back a draft ordinance with language to include investment requirements placed on political subdivisions in Oregon under Chapter 294, County and Municipal Financial Administration. The lending standards proposed will include standards from the Oregon Local Government Intermediate Fund Investment Guidelines. The process in this subject has just begun, and public input is encouraged. The proposal at this time, pending board approval, is to initially place the ordinance before the voters in a ballot measure later this year. Next, update on the Geographical Information System, the GIS mapping application. As reported in the county address last year, on November 30th, 2016, Curry County entered into an intergovernmental agreement, or an IGA, with Lane County to stand up a working enterprise GIS system. The entire project was outsourced, including Lane County hosting the mapping application, and was completed in early 2017. This eliminated future software, maintenance, and licensing costs to the county, which over the previous 12 months had exceeded $50,000. The county currently pays $150 per month to Lane County for hosting the application, which includes hardware replacement, software licensing, and technical support. The mapping application can be accessed at the link below. Update on the government channel video broadcast of public meetings. In 2017, contrary to fallacious, libelous statements published in the Curry Coastal Pilot editorial, January 6, 2018, all Curry County Board of Commissioner meetings are televised in high definition HD video and broadcast live to cable subscribers. Video of the commissioner meetings may also be watched live during the meeting has to be going, on many home computers and other wireless electronic devices capable of streaming video. Curry County Civic TV live streaming video of commissioner meetings may be accessed at the link below. Video of previous meetings may be watched anytime, which is called video on demand, by going to the county website on the Board of Commissioners meeting schedule. Video is usually posted approximately 2 days following the meeting. To get a glimpse and some history behind the biased misrepresentations and outright attacks published in the Curry Coastal Pilot, click on the following link. IT Technical Support Service budget, fiscal year 2016-17 summary. July 2016 was the first full month Curry County on a temporary basis contracted with a local company to provide IT services. A formal agreement to continue this arrangement was effective January 1, 2017. The county IT budget approved for fiscal year 2016-17 totaled $291,000 and included $175,000 for personal services, which are labor. Preliminary year-end results for fiscal year 2016-17 showed the department approximately $55,000 under budget. Based on the fiscal year 2016-17 results, the approved budget for the fiscal year 2017-18 was reduced by approximately 35% to $214,000. New county website scheduled to go live in February.
Contrary to some county officials' belief that the cost of the website was $13,500 per year, the total cost for the new website was and remains $13,500 payable over 4 years, one time $13,500 with no interest. The cost includes 5 years of unlimited technical support, unlimited storage capacity, and a website redesign in year 5 at no additional charge. The process of adding tens of thousands of additional public records on the surveyor's web pages to be better serve the public is currently underway, with completion expected in the next couple of weeks. These records will be available then to the public for download at no charge. Once the process of adding the surveyor records is complete, the website developer will complete work with the Parks Department to implement an automated campground reservation booking system for the public with credit card options available. There are additional charges for these services, and the Parks Department is aware of those. Next one, and the largest one, begin the budget process to compile anticipated revenue for the 2018-19 budget. The formal budget process for 2018 begins February 12th with department head meetings. Formal workshops begin mid-March with more detailed discussions based on workshop discussions throughout April. The proposed budget is scheduled to be presented to the Budget Committee May 7th. Formal Budget Committee meetings will begin Monday, May 14th. One major topic of discussion will likely once again be to use or not to use any road fund reserves for law enforcement road patrol. Another topic of discussion will likely be the extent of department cuts for 2 scenarios. A, if road fund reserves are used. B, if road fund reserves are not used. Other discussion topics which no doubt will be discussed are: C, consider a possible ballot measure put to the voters for some type of revenue increase. D, discuss the existing escalating and benefit costs, labor benefit costs. The following facts are provided for review and consideration prior to the budget process commencing. The public is encouraged, once again, encouraged to become involved and aware in the budget consequences. Over the last 20 years, at least 10 tax measures were put to the voters. Most were to fund law enforcement. The last was on May 19th of 2015. All tax measures failed. Nearly 1/3, 32.6%, of the citizens in Curry County are 65 years and older. Sources recent U.S. Census Bureau estimates of July 2016. Many are living on Social Security benefits only. Social Security cost of living allowances from 2010 to 2018, which is a period of 9 years, totaled 10.8%. Step increases, which is a 5% of payroll, and COLAs for eligible sheriff deputies, which is represented by the local Teamsters Union, for the fiscal years 2010-11 to 2017-18, or 8 years, totaled 49.5%. The source is Curry County payroll orders. The Service Employees International Union, or SEIU, collective bargaining agreement was settled after the 2017-18 budget was approved. Non-budgeted increase was approximately $65,000. Outside counsel for negotiating the 2 collective bargaining agreements recently totaled about $30,000 and was also not budgeted. Both SEIU and the Teamsters are up for renegotiation this year, both collective bargaining agreements. Oregon Public Employees Retirement System, or PERS, employer contribution rates increased from about $700,000 to $850,000 for the fiscal year 2017. The same, approximately $150,000 or 4% of payroll increase will apply next year, as the PERS contribution rates are effective for 2-year periods, 2017-18 and 2018-19. PERS advisory rates are now out for 2019-20 and 2020-21 and estimated to average 20% of gross payroll. This is a 5% increase to payroll over the prior 2-year period. These contributions are required by Oregon statute and in addition to any other increases. Coupled with Social Security or FICA, F-I-C-A contributions, the total will be about 28% of payroll in that period. Paid holidays, vacation, and sick leave for new full-time employees total 36 days. Health, dental, and optical insurance premiums recently increased to over $1,250 per month per person. The county currently contributes $1,000 per month for non-represented employees and officials, $1,100 a month for SEIU members, and the total premium for members of the Teamsters Union. The county contributions are estimated at about $1,400,000 per year. And that concludes my written comments. Again, the last page was to begin preparing and getting some numbers out and to the public, most assuredly, and to see how they're going to deal with this financial subject. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Hitt, or excuse me, Administrator Hitt had one more thing he needed to add.
I did, thank you, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. I neglected to mention when I described David Marshall's role as kind of working on some special projects, particularly related to county revenues and financial situations, primarily focusing, at least initially, on establishing fair and full tower lease agreements with our many users. I neglected to mention in that context that I've also asked Louise Kallstrom to resume her prior role as the formal or official county accountant. So she will be shepherding or helping to shepherd the process of developing our budget, getting our final fiscal year report done, and our final audit report done. So these are all some of the high priority projects that she'll be helping us complete in the next couple of months.
And just one question, is she going to be over grants also?
And also working on grants.
Just wanted to get that out.
Yes, definitely. She and I have had several conversations about that, and in particular, a high priority there is to, although we're somewhat held ransom, and we'll talk about this more next week by the FAA, but part of her focus here, and she's already done actually most of that work, is to finalize that FAA grant for the Brookings Airport in order so that we can conclude a potential sale to the city of Brookings.
Okay.
But all grants, yes.
So this concludes our meeting. We will adjourn out of our regular meeting, take a break here, and go into.
Yeah, but we're not going to adjourn.
We're not adjourning. We're
recessing
to go into executive session because of ORS 192.660.2 to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. And also, according to ORS 192.660.2D, deliberations for labor negotiations. So we'll go out of regular meeting and then come back after executive session is over with. So anybody who's not directly involved in the executive session, we'll see you later.
What draws you to the Oregon coast? Is it the green and blue surf on a brilliant sunny day, or angry boiling waves during a raging winter storm? Do you prefer quiet coves or powerful breakers churning the sand? How about sand castles? Do you come for the rising tide or the setting sun, to marvel at whales gliding through the sea or flying in the sky? Reasons to travel the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are as far-reaching as your imagination. This is a spectacular part of Oregon that traces the entire coastline along Highway 101, guiding you to the sea and away again, to coastal towns big and small, lowland marshes, and breathtaking overlooks. It's a long byway stretching from the mouth of the Columbia River to the California border, 363 miles in all, of some of the most unblemished, awe-inspiring seascapes you'll find anywhere. In addition to its designation as a scenic byway, Highway 101 in Oregon also has been selected as an all-American road. That means when you come here, you will experience one of only 31 roads considered to be the best of the best in America.
You know, when people come to the Oregon coast, they're really astonished how beautiful it is, and what separates it from many of the other places in North America that are coastal is how undeveloped it is. And that's because Oregon had a very far-sighted land use program back in the 1970s. We have all these wonderful state parks along the scenic byway that are perfect places to stop and enjoy nature in a relatively unspoiled way.
From the north, you begin in Astoria, the first permanent European settlement in the Pacific Northwest. It's a genuine maritime community with ship traffic from around the world seeking harbor up the Columbia. The official State Maritime Museum of Oregon sits here on the river. Beautiful Victorian houses dot the hillside. And standing 600 feet above sea level is the 125-foot Astoria Column. It features a hand-painted spiral frieze that would stretch over 500 feet if unwound. Heading south, you'll find the community of Seaside, a popular vacation spot that offers miles of public beaches, an oceanfront promenade, and a downtown core packed with restaurants, shops, and even a beach-type arcade. Cannon Beach is home to one of Oregon's most photographed natural wonders, Haystack Rock. Get your shots from the beach, or take a short drive up to Ecola State Park and look down on this 235-foot work of art. The picturesque small town is filled with art galleries, shops, and cafes. Ready for more? 10 miles to the south, this is the view from Cape Falcon. You're 700 feet above the Pacific. Here, the Pacific Coast Byway has been carved out of Neahkahnie Mountain and held in place by stone walls built in the 1930s by craftsmen in the Civilian Conservation Corps. Upon descending the mountain, the highway drifts inward around Tillamook Bay to Tillamook, the unofficial dairy capital of Oregon. The verdant valley of dairy farms in this area produces 25 million gallons of milk annually. Much of that is processed into natural cheddar cheese. And near more than 800 miles of navigable waters, Tillamook is a crossroads for North Coast recreation. From here, you owe it to yourself to veer off Highway 101 to explore the Three Capes Scenic Loop. This drive places you right at the beach, beginning with Cape Mears, home to the shortest lighthouse in Oregon. 9 lighthouses stand sentinel along Oregon's coastline. They're monuments to our maritime heritage, towering links to the past, and as much a part of the rugged Oregon coastal landscape as any offshore monolith. The Cape Mears Lighthouse was first illuminated in 1890. Oregon's oldest lighthouse is at Cape Blanco, the westernmost point in the state. It was commissioned in 1870 to aid shipping generated by gold mining and the lumber industry. The 93-foot-high Yaquina Head Lighthouse is the tallest in Oregon. Today, its automated light continues to aid navigation at the entrance to Yaquina Bay. Many of the lighthouses are open to the public. Most happen to be excellent places to view nesting seabirds and offshore sea life. Tide pools, those rocky areas between high and low tides, support unique and diverse plants and animals. Vast amounts of colorful, otherworldly creatures wait to be discovered. But walk cautiously. These organisms are tough enough to withstand the pounding surf, but are utterly vulnerable to human activity. Wildlife and sea life abound on the coast.
There are 6 national wildlife refuges along the Oregon coast. The Pacific Coast Scenic Byway bisects these refuges or goes alongside them. It provides you the opportunity to see a wide variety of abundant wildlife, including seabirds, seals and sea lions, deer and elk, and many other wildlife.
Cape Kiwanda lies at the southern end of the Three Capes Scenic Loop, near the town of Pacific City. Here you'll find a second haystack rock on the byway. Hike up the dune to marvel at stunning views of sandstone formations as they turn yellow, gold, or even red in the changing sunlight. If your timing is right, you'll spot 1 or 2 of the dory fleet sprint onto the beach after a day of fishing. How's this for a dinner setting? Restaurants along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway accommodate just about any taste. Many serve an ocean view with every meal. Up and down the coast, you'll find seafood, of course, but don't limit yourself just because you're by the water. The Central Coast begins around Lincoln City, which is one of the larger communities on the byway. It has a reputation for being windy and was recognized by Kite Lines magazine as the best place to fly a kite in North America. It was incorporated from several small towns and as a result offers a sandy beach that is 7.5 miles long. A number of small state parks lie nestled along the ocean between Lincoln City and Newport. Stop, get out of your car, and take in the commanding views that are there, right next to your all-American road. Depot Bay boasts the world's smallest navigable harbor, 6 square acres in all. A seawall runs the length of the downtown, so everywhere you go, you're rewarded with a dramatic view of the Pacific. It's considered Oregon's whale-watching capital, with thousands making their way past Oregon each fall and spring. Fishing and whale-watching excursions regularly set sail from this little harbor. Leaving Depot Bay, you'll soon find yourself at Cape Foulweather, a basalt outcropping that looms 500 feet above the water. It was here, in 1778, British Captain James Cook first sighted the mainland of North America on the Pacific coast. A fierce storm that almost put an end to his expedition earned this rugged stretch of coastline its name. Coastal weather can change by the hour. You will find a lot of wet days, but rain can become blue sky with white clouds in an afternoon. Mist kissing the headlands burns away, or storms can last for days. Some people come for those storms. Whether you find sunbursts of happiness or cloud cover like a quilt, there's always a reason to come back. Like Lincoln City, Newport is one of the larger towns on the byway. The historic bayfront on the north side of Yaquina Bay hosts one of Oregon's largest commercial fishing fleets. It has a busy, genuine working waterfront feel, with fish plants and boats coming and going from as far away as Alaska. On the south side of the bay is the Oregon Coast Aquarium. Share waters beneath the ocean with sharks and rays. And don't miss the sea otters at mealtime.
Now, all 4 of our otters were rescued otters. They were found out in the wild.
For the next 50 miles, your trip along Highway 101 hugs the coast. Many more state parks offer opportunities to stop and take in outstanding vistas, crashing waves, and offshore rock formations. 2 small towns of note are Waldport and Yachats. Waldport sits on Alsea Bay, where fishing, clamming, and crabbing are popular. The 40-mile stretch south of Waldport marks steep headlands, jagged volcanic outcrops, and jaw-dropping scenery, the rugged edge of the Oregon coast. Yachats is a quiet, unhurried artist town just a couple of miles north of Cape Perpetua. Drive to the top of this bluff, and you'll be 800 feet above the water. On a clear day, you can see 70 miles of Oregon coastline. Drive past Heceta Head Lighthouse to the Sea Lion Caves. A quick elevator ride 200 feet down puts you in America's largest sea cave, the year-round home of wild stellar sea lions. Rugged cliffs give way to graceful beaches as you approach Florence. In the spring, be on the lookout for wild rhododendrons along the roadsides. Similar to Newport, you'll find an historic Old Town commercial district along the Siuslaw River. Florence is the gateway to the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area, a 47-mile sandbox of wind-sculpted sand dunes towering 500 feet above sea level. These are the largest expanse of coastal sand dunes in North America. Reedsport is at the center of the Oregon Dunes. But you can do more than ride a dune buggy or motorcycle. A short 3 miles east of town on Highway 38, more than 100 Roosevelt elk reside at the Dean Creek Elk Viewing Area. Early mornings or just before dusk are the best times to photograph the herd. Paying homage to Oregon's timber heritage, Reedsport hosts an annual Chainsaw Sculpting Championship, a time to watch three-dimensional artwork come to life right before your eyes. Mountains of sand continue at Winchester Bay. You'll also find an active marina here. It's a great place to try your hand at crabbing or take a charter for salmon or bottom fishing. The dunes end and you enter the coast's largest urban area at Coos Bay. It has the deepest natural harbor between Seattle and San Francisco. Foreign vessels sail under the massive McCullough Bridge. You may have noticed, dotted along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are many beautiful and iconic bridges. The Megler Bridge in Astoria, Yaquina Bay Bridge in Newport, Alsea Bay Bridge in Waldport, Siuslaw River Bridge in Florence, and the magnificent McCullough Bridge in Coos Bay are works of art in their own right. Charleston is slightly off the byway at the mouth of the bay. It was once an old waterfront fishing village and has become a commercial and sport fishing center. From here, the Charleston to Bandon tour route offers another side trip off the byway. It's a wonderful way to explore a variety of natural Pacific Coast beauty in a number of settings: beaches, vistas, gardens, and more. Giant sea stacks, a tiny lighthouse, and an old town await you in Bandon. Do you like to golf? This remote area on the Oregon coast has not one, but 3 of the most stunning and challenging golf courses in the world. As you drive south of town, look for brilliant red bogs in the fall. You're passing through the cranberry capital of Oregon. After a trek through forests and farmlands, you'll reach Port Orford. The wild coast has begun. You're in the most westerly city in the continental United States, and you've reached some of the most awesome scenery on the byway. Here you can watch a fishing fleet launched by crane in one of only 6 dolly ports in the world. Port Orford covers less than 2 square miles. It's similar to many communities that call this all-American road home. Small in size, still with a lot to offer. Like Manzanita, with a vibrant business district and beautiful setting at the base of Neahkahnie Mountain. You can board a fishing charter out of Garibaldi, swim in freshwater lakes near Dune City, catch world-class windsurfing at Pistol River. There is little development from Port Orford to Gold Beach, outlet for the renowned Rogue River. Feel like going for a ride? Jet boat excursions run from May into October up this wild and scenic river. Or maybe a midday walk on an uncrowded beach is more your speed. The last dozen miles of the Pacific Coast Byway leading into Brookings save some of the best for last. Treat yourself to frequent stops along the Samuel H. Boardman Scenic Corridor. Short hikes reward you with the best views in this shining stretch of coastline. Walk, relax, and be amazed along the coves and the crashing surf. The world's northernmost redwood grove is 8 miles from the mouth of the Chetco River in Brookings. So, you've toured nature's finest art museum. You've dined elegantly, hung out with sea lions, unwound like you wish you could every day. What else is there to do? Step back in history near Astoria, ride a horse along the waves near Florence, pet a baby tiger near Bandon, hike a trail, sample gourmet cheese, eat fresh-caught crab, watch a sunset.
When you come to the Oregon coast and walk on the beaches or go to the headlands and go to the small coastal towns, you really can commune with nature, and you don't have huge numbers of people, but you're also able to take in one of America's last great unspoiled seascapes.
So what draws you to the Oregon coast? What favorite places lure you back again and again? Each visit is different. The ocean, the sky, the light, and the experience always continue to amaze. Shouldn't you be there?
There's something about having land and sea. Never having to choose between digging in or looking out. Here, you can go where the spirit or the wind moves you. To the tops of the trees, along secluded beaches, or into more wild and scenic rivers than anywhere else in the western United States. We're the closest place to the sunset while still keeping your feet dry, and a destination where anyone can begin. We share more than we keep, so you can see more than you imagined. This is a place you have to touch, hold, and feel to believe. The entire shoreline of the West Coast's best coast is open to you, and playgrounds made of forests are waiting for you. Escape to Curry County and don't leave anything out.
Roadway departure fatalities are a serious and often preventable problem in the United States. The Federal Highway Administration reports that 54% of all highway fatalities are caused by drivers leaving their lane of travel. The Oregon Department of Transportation is taking a proactive approach to reduce this kind of tragedy by implementing a centerline and shoulder rumble strip program.
Rumble strips are one of the most low-cost, cost-effective countermeasures that we can apply across the system.
Rumble strips are grooved patterns on the roadway that make a rumbling sound and a physical vibration, immediately warning inattentive drivers that they're leaving their driving lane. Rumble strips allow drivers to self-correct and avoid an accident.
About 67% of fatal crashes in Oregon are road departure crashes, which are a vehicle can leave the lane to the right and hit a ditch or a rock or a tree, something like that, or cross over the center line to the left and get in a head-on collision or a sideswipe meeting type crash.
Over an 8-year period, ODOT engineers studied segments of 16 different highways and concluded that rumble strips are highly effective at reducing lane departures.
We did a before and after crash analysis to find that we have reduced head-on fatalities by 40% with the installation of centerline rumble strips.
We've been trying to find a way to deal with a problem that seems to be increasing over the last 10 or 15 years with our drivers, and that's distracted driving. And there's a lot of things that cause distracted driving. All these distractions are things that make people take their attention away from where it should be.
Comparisons between other available safety features like guardrail and concrete barriers show that shoulder and centerline rumble strips are the most cost-effective safety treatment available.
We're finding that those are very effective in trying to make sure that when you do make that mistake, it's not the last mistake you make. They help bring your attention back to the driving task and bring you back to where you should be, focusing on being in the middle of your lane and being safe.
ODOT makes a conscious effort to use a bike-friendly rumble strip design where possible and installs 12-foot bike gaps every 48 feet of rumble strip. ODOT understands that rumble strips create a noise that can be disruptive for people who live near rural highways, and we're trying to address these concerns with different approaches.
For the noise, we're looking at some new designs. We're hoping that the new design rumble strip will be just as effective at saving people from making an error and much quieter, on the order of 10 times as quiet. And we're actually going to be installing our first full set of these style of rumble strips along 205 this summer.
So we recognize that noise is a concern, but one of the things I like to tell people is whenever you hear the sound of a rumble strip, it could be the sound of the life being saved of one of your loved ones.
Rumble strips are proven to save lives. The Oregon Department of Transportation is taking the lead in implementing the sound of safety.
I love walking. It's what I do. So who better to share some tips to help keep your walk safe? Wait for the signal. Take in the sights and smells till you get the go-ahead to cross. Use intersections to cross, but when you can't, remember your training. Always look left, right, left. Show you want to cross and wait for all lanes of traffic to stop. And make eye contact so you know the driver sees you. Hi there. Good human. You get a treat when we get home.
Sign that doesn't have a rider on it, so we take our first test at this posted speed limit of 35
Bob
miles
Weeks
per
and
hour.
Harley Bills are seeing more than their share of curvy roads these days. Their job is to drive every stretch of highway in Region 1 several times. All this driving back and forth.
That way we can get it all the way up. All right, sounds good.
The old limits were set back in the 1930s and 40s and were changed very little until just recently. So now our limits are taking into account newer vehicles, a little bit more aggressive driving style, and so those limits are going up.
And going up in a big way. This is Eric Leeming, a traffic devices engineer with ODOT. He's driving an ordinary car with some extraordinary tech on board, a GPS device that records data as he maneuvers every curve in the road. Back at his office, Eric can upload the data recorded in the car, and special software determines exactly the right speed for every curve, every time. Most speeds will increase by 5 to 10 miles per hour, but in some special cases, it's much higher.
The state has a deadline of 2019 from the Federal Highway Administration, but with 8,000 miles of roads to investigate and potentially thousands of signs to change, they're not wasting any time. They're getting out there right now.
Then we're going to W113.
I got a new clock and ended up doing the 24-hour and had to switch it back. We better get that switched. Thank you, Charles. We're back in regular session now. No decisions were made. So we will now adjourn from regular session and come back to our special meeting at 2:30. And that will be a public hearing at 2:30. So thank you all for coming. It's been a grand time. And thank you for your report.